Well, good evening, folks.
Hot one. Maybe everybody's taking a long weekend.
It is toasty. You'll see we're
No jackets
down to
today.
our shirt sleeves
There
today.
was even a bit of a discussion on what exactly was going to make the most sense.
I contemplated going business casual with a no tie
Yeah, well,
jacket.
just like a two-piece
I even-
bikini,
I-
whatever, just whatever
The
whatever you
mankini,
can do.
plaster
Absolutely,
chest.
figure it out. It's been
Yeah.
hot.
It's
I
been
can
toasty,
cook
yeah.
her.
It was. I come out of Grand Prairie yesterday. It was 37 degrees when I left the office.
I actually was working on a combine yesterday, and this kind of the first I can really remember ever in my life. I just couldn't do it. This last couple of weeks, I had to
Yeah.
stop like around 3 in the afternoon.
I
I
need a siesta.
just couldn't do it anymore. No amount of water, no amount of like getting rid of. Of course, like I'm not the kind of guy that's going to work in sandals and shorts. Like if I'm working, I got my work boots, my blue jeans,
Yeah.
like oftentimes even a hoodie because you got stuff falling on your head.
Sure. You don't
It's
want all
just-
that
right.
getting in your.
And then you get itchy, but you just feel like your body's cooking from the inside out, and it's
Yeah.
just like, all right, I gotta stop at least for an hour.
No doubt.
And I don't ever remember being that susceptible. I guess maybe it's an age thing because I know it's been hot. Like we worked in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Just
no,
that never bothered
but it
me.
isn't normal for here, right? Like if you get the level of humidity that we typically have here, and then plus the heat,
Yeah,
we're not acclimated to that. There's no way. But,
it's been something else.
yeah,
And that and the weather, right? We had what on supposed to be last Thursday, 100% chance, 25 millimeters of rain.
yeah,
We didn't even get a
Didn't
tenth
get
of
a
an inch.
drop.
Supposed to rain all day. Didn't rain at all.
yeah. We didn't get nothing. Here.
Amazing. Like I was gonna put that in the I've been slacking on my YouTube channel because I mean
You
it's
and
so,
me,
it's
you
so,
and me both.
but it's just so nice. Like I just like I want to get stuff done, and
Yeah,
then we do this. We put time into this, but
yeah.
I was gonna make one about like it's funny to me why we can be so scared of predictions, say 50, 60, 100 years down the road when they can't even get the weather right 72
Oh,
hours out.
Honestly, tomorrow what's gonna happen?
So why are we so scared? I mean, I'll agree we should be cognizant of what's happening, and
be prepared.
we should be doing the best we can at eliminating unnecessary emissions and things. You and I are both
Sure.
advocates for that.
Sure.
You know, at a personal level, at a corporate level, whatever. But for everyone to be running for the hills and hiding in their basements over like, oh, we got 11 years left to live, and then the world's gonna go, and they can't even get the weather right in 72 hours out. Totally, like 100%.
Well, it's
wrong.
funny because it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about too.
Well,
tonight, right?
it will.
We had 11 years left, and all these people panic. But what are they going to do about it?
It's amazing.
Because there's the vast majority of the population is just so incompetent. This is
Well, I had done a TikTok earlier when I was spraying for the neighbor. It was a severe thunderstorm warning, all these precautions we should be taking, right? When you click on that little red
yeah, sure.
triangle. And I thought, like, it didn't even get a blast of lightning or a burst of thunder, anything that day. And I thought, well, like if you've taken your family down into the shelter because Environment Canada,
Yeah,
and you've missed a beautiful day. My kids were on the lawn all day playing
Hiding under the
frisbee.
kitchen table, waiting for the air horn to go
Right,
off.
and yet the rest of us are living our life. There's too much. That's I guess like there's too much information. It doesn't manifest.
But Hines Creek, look what happened there. Well, a tornado.
Well, and I had said that
What are the odds
in
of
my TikTok. The only time this stuff is going to be helpful is if you can get it right.
Sure.
Right? I mean, I think there's a whole story about the boy who cried wolf.
It's like Brian Fantana, right? 60% of the time.
But yeah, if you're spreading fear daily, pretty soon people are going to be like, whatever,
Well, that's
man.
the little boy that cried wolf, right? Eventually
Exactly.
You just shut it off. You just allow it. And that's why nobody watches the news anymore, right? Because it's just all doom and gloom. And
It is. And you're right. Yeah, that ties right into tonight's topic about getting your life in order.
oh, good. Well, who we got on? We got three people on. Damon's on. Fred's on. So
Ooh, Damon's on days off.
Damon, yeah, today was his day off.
He's excited. Glad to have you here.
Yeah.
We do. I mean, I know everybody's. It's beautiful out. So I mean, I don't.
Doing this hot evening. Yeah. So we had a pre-show workout. Neighbor phoned and said. Actually, neighbor phoned like 3:00. And she said, we got new neighbors. And she said, oh, there's sheep on the lawn. It's not an uncommon occurrence in the summertime because they generally don't mow that area and it looks pretty delicious. And sheep are going to defy gravity or whatever they're going to do, go under the fence, go through the fence, go around the fence. But they're going to find a way to get those num-nums, right? So fetched him back in. And then she phoned, like, what was it, like 10 minutes before we were on the air here. Hey, so you were rolling up.
Yeah, I was just coming up the road.
I'm running across the field, like dressed like this, just shaking a pail of grain. Like, come on, here's sheep. It was quite the show. So
something right out of the old country in a movie.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. If I would have been actually wearing a wool suit, it probably. Well, this might actually be wool.
You didn't have your hat.
I didn't have the hat. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, should have.
That would have been. If you would have had that and a cane, that would have made the picture just
missed
perfect.
Opportunity.
Yeah, it was.
I probably would have just melted in this chair by then. So.
Yeah, they were tough old boys and girls there back in the day.
Well, I remember my granddad, because he's from Cumbria in the UK, and that's every day he wore that like a tweed woolen suit, so that it's thick, right? It's meant for adverse weather, being up on the hills, and 75, 80 years old, like he clearly doesn't do that anymore. He's just sitting in his chair by the fire.
Yeah,
and he's still wearing the whole get-up, right? Wore a suit every day of his life.
Well, there is something to be said for, dressing to the heat as well. Like you don't, if you strip right down, you got nothing left to take off.
Where you go from there, right? Yeah.
You can. I mean, I noticed that when I was working down south. That if you just got dressed for it, and
well, yeah, you generally wear like the big mitts until like May long weekend.
Always.
Right? So
I'm cold all the time.
Yeah.
That's why it's been rare this year to just be like, holy Lord.
Well, I know. That's what we were in because that's why we haven't made video for a long time, right? It's been like 3 weeks since our last one.
Yeah,
maybe even 4.
I don't.
It's been a while.
I know I think the last one we did it rained, and it hasn't rained for like a month. So.
Yeah, so because we went haying out in Rio Grande, and then right after that we went to the shoe shop, and it was 39 degrees there. And you sit in that water, and that water is just like it's like going in your bathtub at home. Like I couldn't believe it how warm it was. You're thinking you're going to get this respite from. I mean, it is respite from the heat, but it's still hot. Like
still hot. Eh?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what a time. No air conditioning in the house. You got one of those little things on wheels or whatever goes to the window.
Oh yeah.
17 people gathered around that like it's a campfire.
Hoses running everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What a gong show. But
you did your part though.
It was a good time.
Didn't add to global warming by not producing.
No.
So.
No, that's
but
right.
it's been a beautiful summer. Unbelievable. I hope the pumps don't turn on here in September because that won't be very fun.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
You're probably going to be in a combine for the next like 7 weeks, eh?
Well, I don't think it's going to take that long. It's actually quite up in the air right now. I was going to do a crop tour here in a few days.
Because everything's kind of starting to turn.
It's turning fast, but as far as yield and I don't know. I think
light.
If it stays hot and dry, harvest could be started and over instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll get 1, 2, 3 fields a day. If the yield's down, if it's dry, you can combine it fast. So it could be. But if it starts raining all of September, which has been the case for the last couple of years,
seems to be the trend, right?
I think when I was looking last year, we started on August 17th, and we finished on October 3rd. But we did a lot with one combine. We had quite a bit of weather, or good weather. Sorry, we had a lot of people looking for that straw, harder to bail behind the rotary combine, so we just conceded.
Yeah. People were kind of desperate for anything that would fill a belly last year.
Yeah. So, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes this year.
We got our hay. We're good.
You got enough hay?
We won't have to feed any mystery feed this year, so that's good.
8-year-old hay for $90 a bale.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's some guys wanting $200 a bale, even this year.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I know the price of diesel went up, but not that much. So
interesting.
Scary business. So it is hot. We should have a drink.
We should have a drink, and I had it on my phone here tonight because I have no Wi-Fi at home, so I couldn't print. We're going to drink Isla. So you educated me. This is not Islay, although Islay sounds better.
It does look like Islay. It's spelled Islay, but
Isla.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have Isla Journey Scotch. This will actually be our first blended Scotch. Everything we've had up till now is single malt.
Single malt, yeah.
Now, when I was looking on the internet, I couldn't actually find where they got their Scotch from to blend. It's different distilleries around the island of Isla.
Yeah.
So this particular distiller is, let me bring this back up here again.
And I'm sure they wouldn't even tell you where they get it all from, right? That would be like Colonel Sanders' recipe.
I expect there's a bit of secrecy,
some cloak and dagger stuff
absolutely
happening there.
So the island of Islay is southwest of Scotland, the mainland. I think every Scotch we've had up until now has been mainland. No, the Lefroy.
No, we have had Lefroy, which is from also from there.
Islay as well.
And I want to say there was one more, perhaps, but
so this 1949 Hunter Lang is the distiller. They are headquartered in Glasgow, mainland Scotland. So they actually didn't start distilling until 2016. They bought land in Ardnaho, which is northwest, I believe, on the island of Islay. They built a distillery there. They began producing Scotch in 2018, opened to the public in 2019, and then produced their first Scotch in 2021. So this is going to be, I don't know if it says a year.
Their first Scotch in 2021. So this is the virgin bottle.
This has to be one of the virgin bottles.
Well, that's interesting.
Every other Scotch we've had too, aside from the Lefroy, will have a totally different taste. The island of Islay is known for peat. It's the monster peat.
Yes. Yeah.
So we've had the Dalmores, that was almost like a dessert.
Sure.
The Glenfiddich, bitter a bit. What else did we have?
A bit like the diesel fuel of whiskey, right?
Absolutely. We had that. What was the one we had with the gimmick cigars? What did we have with those?
Oh, that was Highland Park.
Yeah, that was another one that was more on the, I would say the lower.
That was from Orkney. Yeah.
This keeps turning off here, but we always go around and around with tasting notes and smells.
Yeah.
And I did have a pretty good laugh. I wrote a bunch of them down here. So it's hard if you're not.
You're saying this is the best $48 I ever spent, right?
Well, I'm in no way ever going to be a Scotch. What do you want to call connoisseur or whatever? I don't understand where they come up with these crazy ideas of what this tastes like.
It's pretty cool design on the lid too, big lion.
Because, well, I'll admit I enjoy it. I definitely do. I don't get near the definition that these people do. So on the nose, we're going to get an extinguished candle wick. We're going to get Shoe Factory. This was right off of a website, a Scotch website. We're going to get peat. We're going to get smoked meat, ash, lemon zest, passion fruit. I don't even know what passion fruit smells like. We're going to get sweet vanilla. We're going to get Ovaltine. We're going to get and slightly sour. Then into the taste, we're going to taste obvious peat. I expect this maybe similar to that Lefroy. We're going to get smoked meat, plums, herbs, spices, ash, sea salt, caramel. So none of this stuff I would ever think goes together, nor would I think you would be able to taste this at all. Like what I'm trying to say is, so you taste lemon zest and I taste Shoe Factory.
I'm going to be honest, you had me a Shoe Factory.
Is this going to be amazing, or how? Like, I guess that's how different people are. You know, you're sitting back thinking like, oh, this tastes really good. It tastes like lemon zest, and the next guy's like eating a dirty old shoe.
Yeah, the complexities of the palate, right?
So it's going to be exciting, anyways.
So, Fred's got a cold beer in hand. Says at least they come in a pretty bottle. That's one thing. Even cheap Scotch does generally come in a pretty nice bottle. So, well, you should do the honors.
Crack her open. Yeah, absolutely. It makes fairly, like if we were to unbox them all, you get pretty nice decor out of just the bottles alone. Well, you said that even the Dalmore bottle empty is worth $30.
Well, the Dalmore bottle alone, empty, $35 on eBay. You can sell that bottle for. So don't waste your trip to the bottle depot and only get a quarter for it. What are you picking up? Kiwi?
I'm not getting Shoe Factory. I've never been in a Shoe Factory either. So. No, I'm getting Scotch.
Just
the smell of Scotch.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Maybe if you let it breathe a bit, let's get a little in here.
I'll be honest with you, that smells like pure gasoline. Sorry for the Anchorman references, but no, there's a lot of.
May I?
That's peat. Yes, please. That's peat.
It's the monster peat, right? That's what becomes of it. But yeah,
it's very pale too, hey?
Yeah, I think the Highland Park was pale as well. Glenfiddich is
So
also pale.
that's a little bit concerning. I mean, that's going to be like a mouthful of fire. I'm pretty confident with all that peat.
Well, it wasn't that bad though. Well, I didn't like the Lefroy, and you like that.
You didn't like the Lefroy?
I don't. Well, we were fairly deep into the Appleton Estates before we got to.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you never really had that with a clean palate, right? So.
But I can get the leather now. I can definitely get that. Smoked meat, I wouldn't say. Ovaltine, I don't believe I've ever had the honor of.
You've never had Ovaltine?
I don't think so.
Ovaltine is like hot chocolate with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It's just terrible. Like it's. Well, I'm gonna save my. I don't know. I better have a taste before we have this cigar.
Well, we have to.
Otherwise, it's just not. We're gonna lose too much, I think.
But it's.
But I just, as you get the.
It burns my nostrils.
Yeah, it's very. What would you call it? Volatile.
It is
almost, right?
It is.
It's like,
and it seems to get like it's really putting out as it's breathing.
Whew. Yeah, that's got some pepper. Some pepper on the tip.
Single tear rolls down your cheek.
And that's oh yeah, that's heartburn in a glass is what that is. It seems to me to be the kind of whiskey that would. You ever see those guys with the big red nose, right? You ever see those old boys, right? Because they spent too much time with their. Yeah, that's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, that burnt the whole way. There's a lot of ash. I'm glad I took that shot of Pepto. That's my regiment. I do that still before every live. But holy smokes.
It's almost reminiscent of tequila, even.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely peaty ash.
There must be
shoe factory, maybe like the sweepings off the shoe factory floor.
Yeah, well, I can get the leather. I'll give them that, and definitely the ash. Now I can definitely get that. Like I just ate ate half an old cigarette.
You just licked the ashtray right out.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, since we're there,
just went in. Yeah,
we might as well.
I was gonna say too, there must be a massive difference in the Lefroy, Isla Journey Scotch drinker to the Dalmore Scotch drinker. Like those are, I don't even think they belong on the same shelf as far as taste.
Those people probably don't even talk to each other.
I can't imagine they do, because that is like, you could just fill your glass up and drink it. And this hurts your face and your tongue, your chest. It's good. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing.
No, I mean, there's a very good possibility we may not get a half a bottle down tonight.
It's a totally, there must be a totally different person.
What are you getting out of here?
I can definitely get leather.
This is leather, sweeter.
I can definitely
cocoa,
get leather.
Some type of wood. Anyways, this is the
tandem grain truck.
This is tandem grain truck. That's how you know it's good, right? If it smells like mouse shit, they're usually good cigars, right? But this is the Oliva Series G. It's a medium body blend made with African Cameroon wrapper. Actually, they do make a Maduro blend as well, which is made with a Mexican wrapper. So the flavor notes of this wrapper are complemented by the natural of the Nicaraguan Habano fillers, and the Series G is a cigar with notes of cedar. Yeah, and I can definitely get that, and coffee. And so it's quite often it's a balance of smoke and flavor that people. This is a morning cigar for a lot of people.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So
it's got a very nice wrap as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you?
I got these from Cedar Gems, so this was an interesting conversation with the gentleman there regarding the banding. So these ones here, they come with the original bands, and then they're wrapped in cellophane, and then when they hit excise, they have to put the band over top of the plastic. So he was kind enough to remove that band for me before we left the store. But I also picked up some other ones, which they band on the inside of the saran wrap. So that's Arturo Fuente. So
nope.
Or no, these are the ones I got. Sorry, I apologize.
I was going to say, now we have two Fuentes.
This is the Casa Torrent. That's what it was.
That's what got me. So when you had sent me these pictures, I didn't know you had bought 2 different cigars.
Ah,
So I Googled that,
yeah.
expecting to see this.
Sure.
And then I thought, aha, we got them. They sold you the wrong cigar.
Well, now you know.
No, I know. Don't jump to conclusions.
So this is a 6-inch 50 ring gauge cigar. In the history on Oliva, so they make a Series G and a Series V, and I think there's one other as well. But Melanio Oliva cultivated his first tobacco crop in a place called Pinar del Rio in Cuba in 1886. And he had to suspend operations while he fought in the Cuban War of Independence. So after he returned from the war, he resumed his tobacco growing operations. Now, in the early 1920s, his son Facundo Oliva took over the growing operations. And Facundo cultivated the Oliva family tobacco fields for several decades. So then, fast forward several years, Cuba gets overrun by the communists, and they're forced out. So Facundo's son Gilberto takes over, and he's trying to now, instead of growing tobacco, he's trying to sell tobacco. In 1960s, it just became too much, so they pulled out and they went all over the world. They went to Honduras, they went to Panama, they went to Mexico, even went to the Philippines. And finally, they ended up in Nicaragua, which is where they are today, actually. So, kind of interesting.
One thing that's quite interesting when we talk about cigars, when we talk about Scotch, the cigars, regardless, have a very similar history.
They do, yeah.
Their brother cigars, as well as does the Scotch. They have very similar stories.
Good draw.
Well, that's probably a little bit of a slow burning cigar, eh?
Well, I hope so.
2-hour runtime on these.
I'm hoping so.
So,
might as well use the big dog. I'll try and use this one. Just filled it up here yesterday. So
this is one of our indulgences that we don't spare the environment. Is the amount of butane you must have bought since we started these live streams. Enough to heat 1,000 homes.
I do know a guy, so the plant I used to work at, we used to make propane and butane actually.
Oh, so you just take your
It's a fractionation facility.
100-pound pig and fill her up, eh?
Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way, but oh, that is magical. I gotta admit that lit really, really nice.
It did. You know, one thing I haven't perfected yet is the art of the retrohale, and they say that's where you're going to get a lot of your notes. You can really highlight the cigar if you can perfect that.
What you have to do is you have to inhale with your tongue and inhale with your nose and push your tongue to the roof of your mouth.
But I always feel like I'm not gonna get it all right, and I'm gonna asphyxiate.
Well, what's really going to happen is you're going to get a whole bunch of that in your stomach, and then you'll end up feeling sick.
What's asphyxiate? That's when you choke, isn't it?
When you run out of air.
That's what. But yeah,
you suffocate.
So I had it right.
Yeah,
that's what I feel like when I panic.
Oh, spicy. Anyways, what are we talking about tonight? Be a man.
Be a man. Don't starve to death in the grocery store parking lot. Something we've.
So that's very interesting.
We've referenced it in several live streams.
And I believe that came from your dad, did it not?
Absolutely, yeah.
He said that he saw there was going to be young men that would starve to death in the grocery store parking lot.
Yeah, well, he was kind of just, I guess, shocked at society as a whole at one of his trips to the grocery store, right? I mean, he said he's seen a lot of especially young men stuck for an answer when he said hello. So right away, they didn't have the ability to socialize properly or at all.
They just can't articulate their point.
And then, yeah, he was one of the ones that mentioned, like, just couldn't understand how expensive things had gotten. You know, sure. Being in agriculture his whole life, understanding what it costs to produce and the volume you can produce. How did we end up here?
Yeah.
And then we. I think I had said that, yeah, you're going to see people with so out of touch that they just walk into the parking lot and starve to death. Their bank card doesn't work. They don't know what to do about that. They don't know how to talk to people, so they're not going to learn anything, and they can't afford anything.
Well, that's interesting too, because Rogers just recently went down and taken out all the point of sale, like the internet machines all went down, and everybody that relies on their debit machines or their debit cards. That's literally what happened, right? We can't get gas, we can't get food, we can't do nothing. The world came to a standstill for a large group of people. It's pretty scary.
It did, yeah.
And not scary in the fact that we're that vulnerable, but scary in the fact that at the individual level, we have people that have allowed themselves to go that far. So I took some notes today. I didn't bring any show notes. I took what would you call that? Cops have those little books that they notepads.
Yeah, jot down some
jotter pad. Anyways, there's 6 points that I think we should touch on tonight in regards to what it means to be a man and how we can effectively avoid, quite literally, starving to death in the grocery store parking lot. And they all start with the letter C. So 6 C's of being a man. You need to be competent. You need to be capable. You need to be courageous. You need to be confident. You need to be calm. And you need to have character. So I'm interested to hear. We've got some folks on now. We've got a handful of people. What do you think? Where are we at as a society right now? And just while you're chewing on that one, I just want to give a prop for, if you haven't seen these yet, maybe you have, but if you haven't won one yet, there's the cups, or the whiskey glasses. Drops comment in here, and you'll be entered into a draw for this at the end of the show.
Yeah, we did have.
And the hoodie as well.
There's hoodies. I mean, these are going to be a hard sell at 36 degrees, but then you get your choice anyways. So you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you tell me what the temperature is, and I think you'll be looking for a hoodie pretty quick. It was early today. It was 5 degrees.
It's cold in the mornings for sure.
So, I know the whiskey glasses have been the most popular. I'm pretty sure there's only one coffee cup out. Maybe 2.
Kristen took a coffee cup.
Oh, and Chad got one.
Chad took one. Yeah.
Everybody else has got smoking oak whiskey glasses, except for the OGs got Kirkville Farm
the original farm cups. Yeah. You had to be around from the beginning for that. So,
but this smoking oak is a much cooler logo for these lives for sure. So
I gotta admit, I'm really glad. This is $28 for one of these.
Oh yes.
I mean, it's not very expensive in terms of what a cigar costs, but it's kind of mid-range.
I was gonna say that's a mid ballpark for these.
But that's quite
certainly for our area, for our tobacconist.
And they're moving too.
I know they're moving to a bigger shop
beside the license center.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was giving them a hard time about that. If they're going to have a moving out sale or not. But.
Yeah. Well, I had asked them when I was in there, if they had, because when I was looking for those 70 ring gauge, those just monsters, I said, well, you guys have any like $100, $200 cigars? And they said, well, we have brought $100 cigars. And
they can probably get them, but
it's a tough sell, right? I mean, It's really not a cigar. I mean, really, up until we started these live streams, how many cigars a year did you smoke?
Maybe 1 or 2.
Because I'm going to go on probably 0, 1.
Yeah.
Let's use a 0.5 average.
Yeah, that's fair for sure. There's definitely years where nobody has a kid or something like that, or nobody's getting married and you don't have a cigar for sure.
So if you're going to have an inventory of, as we know, if you're going to have an inventory of cigars, and you're saying that basically $30 is midpoint, and we got some. I wouldn't say we have anything less than midpoint in here, and there's 100 and.
No, I mean there's
over 100 cigars in there. I think.
Those Cohiba Esplendidos, they're $100 a cigar, right? So that's where they are. They're 96, right?
So if you don't, if you don't have a humidor, you're not going to want to keep an inventory.
Romeo and Juliet's, I think they're about $36, $37. So. Yeah,
well, then we got that box, whatever they Monte Cristos. Those are quite a chunk of change. I think a box of those was like $900. I don't even remember how many was in it. Of course, we didn't pay that. That was graciously couriered back from Cuba from a guy I know who was going on a trip. So I think that was all duties paid, all taxes paid. It wasn't smuggled.
All above board. Yeah, they were above board. Snuck in anybody's underwear.
But you're talking at like
What do they call it?
90% savings.
Didn't come home in a prison wallet.
No, it didn't. So, but yeah, you don't. So as much as Cedar Gems could carry a huge inventory, why would you want to with limited sale?
That's right. Chad's on. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Chad. Damon says Anchorman is a fantastic movie. It is. It might even be the greatest movie of all time.
Well, Idiocracy is kind of.
It's up there too. Yeah. All right. Well, we should switch this on.
Keep going on. Competency.
Competency. What are we seeing right now with the male population? Well, I should start off by prefacing the male population, and I don't know if we have any ladies watching. Well, Martien's on, so it's, I do want to preface this by saying that anything we do say is never said out of intentional misogyny or to belittle women. But however, what I recognize definitely in today's society is that it is certainly not popular to be masculine anymore.
No. And not only is it not popular, it's actually championed to be more.
Quite the opposite.
More feminine, more compassionate, more open, more every fluffy word you can think of.
Yeah, and so this is where you literally will see these young men trembling if they make it to the aisle of the grocery store, trembling in the aisle of the grocery store, not knowing
how to respond to a 70-year-old man who says hi.
Exactly. Right.
And and I guess not to say, as we grow, evolve, we shouldn't be open to be more cordial, accepting, but certainly not at risk of losing masculinity altogether, because it is a very important part of civilization.
Well, now you're seeing really very, what would be accepted speech now from guys like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, dare I say Andrew Tate, although he's not my favorite guy by any means, but he's a douche wanker. But regardless, is that they're going to the extremes, right? And in order to try and find some balance, right? And Jordan Peterson made a good point. He wrote a book about bringing order to the world, and he was questioned on this about how order can be a masculine trait and chaos can be a feminine trait. And I think the interviewer took, I guess, didn't take it well, I guess, that chaos was a feminine trait. But it's not that chaos is necessarily bad. Sometimes you do need to stir shit up and make it happen. But too much of anything is always, too much order is never a good thing. That leads to tyranny and dictatorship, and all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, so to speak, right? But on the opposite side, absolutely. If it's just a free for all, things need to be brought back into some confines of some control, right? But where I've lost a little bit of faith around Jordan Peterson here recently, because he's jumped on board with Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. And
I know. I've seen that.
Ben Shapiro he's got the sexual prowess of a phone book, and I don't think he's ever pleased his wife ever once. And all he does is he makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year by going to universities and yelling at lesbians. That's pretty much what he does, right? So I have a tough time to respect that avenue, right?
It is, it was. I know 2-3 years ago when I first come across some of his videos, I thought, this guy's really on point, as I did with Jordan Peterson. Were you talking about his 12 whatever, Jordan's book? And did you read that book?
I have read that book, yeah.
Good Lord, what a terrible piece of shit.
It's a tough read for sure.
That's probably the first book that I ever actually read front to back since I got out of school. Because I'll admit, I hate reading.
Yeah.
I just don't like doing it. But I thought, this guy from Fairview, what a terrible piece of shit that book was.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to find him alluring simply because he comes from, he's our homeboy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to attach yourself. Your brain won't let you do anything but kind of attach yourself to him, right?
I could easily give that 0 stars.
But the reality is, once you dig into it a little bit, he makes a lot of really good points. He's fighting back against a very big wave, right? He's trying to fight the tide, and in doing so is probably to his detriment, right?
Yeah.
And at the detriment of his own mental health, right? You've seen that, like he's been a drug addict. He's had severe mental health issues. You know, it's been a bad journey for him.
Yeah.
But competency, I know that's not really where I was going. It's just I wanted to preface with that. But we see a lot of young men come out of school now, and they are to be expected at 18 years of age incompetent, right? Our school system does not raise people to be independent adults when they leave school.
No.
Right? Even if you leave school and you go to university, you're still really not going to get that from. You're not going to get that from the state, right? From your secondary school, and you're certainly not going to get that from private institution by means of post-secondary education. So how do you develop competency? Well, in order to be competent, you need to be trained, you need to be experienced, you need to be qualified. So how do you accomplish that? So we talked a little bit during our last live stream around crime rates and the facts and figures of the home that doesn't have a father in the home, right? And how those kids are at such a disadvantage. They're more likely to end up in jail. They're more likely to end up in mental health institutions. They're more likely to commit suicide. It's a bad deal for them, right? So in order to develop competent children, regardless of any trauma or baggage or bullshit that we as fathers may carry from our experience, we have to say, no, this is it. We're going to end that cycle. We're going to be good fathers for our kids.
Yeah.
Because that's how we're going to build competence in the next generation that, let's be honest, the deck's kind of stacked against them, right? Like,
it is.
Like they walk out into society and they're immediately at a disadvantage because they literally, and especially kids that are born in the last couple 3 years,
yeah,
because they don't even know how to talk to each other.
No, there is a prejudice to them that they're going to be useless already, and unfortunately, in a lot of cases, them being socially handicapped is just for fuels that prejudice. When someone can't.
Well, yeah, you just talk about a millennial to a Gen Xer or to a what they call a boomer, right? A baby boomer. There's just automatically there's prejudice there.
Yeah. And but for good reason, really. I seen the other day just kind of one of those whatever quips or whatever, and they said, the greatest generation ever at 18 years old stormed the beaches of Normandy, and now the 18-year-olds hide out in their rooms and commit suicide over getting disliked on the internet.
Yeah.
Or not enough likes on the internet.
Not enough likes on the internet.
And I thought, like, wow, this is really crazy. Like,
they don't understand what matters, right?
There's quite a bit to this. And you had touched a bit on not trying to be misogynist and most of this is actually, when we came up with this is dedicated to young men. Like this whole thing, this really doesn't have much to do with women.
No, and I mean, we need to say that there's single mothers out there that are raising their sons and they're doing their best, and no qualms against that.
Mm-mm.
Do what you do, and thank goodness you do. Till I was 3 years old, my mom was on her own, and had it not been for that effort, I wouldn't be here today, right? But had it not been for the act of a good man to come into our life, I would be here, but I wouldn't be the man I am today.
Yeah.
Right. So it matters. It makes a big difference. And when it comes, I remember at 17 years old, I went to work for a farmer named Robert Baird. He owned Wampool Farm, and I used to go there and I milk cows. And I can't remember what I screwed up the one day. I screwed something up, and his favorite catchphrase was, "Didn't your father ever teach you nothing?" And man, oh man, was that ever, like, that just cut me right to the core. Because it's that momentary realization that, yeah, actually my whole life my dad's been trying to teach me stuff, but I've just been la la la, well, sunshine and butterflies and rainbows. And that was the moment. I was 17 years old, and I'm just like, nope. That, as much as that statement hurt, it changed my life. Because you immediately start looking to those older boys and start saying, okay, what do I need to know to be prepared for the world? Because I am not prepared for the world right now. And I would hazard to say that, I mean, any young man, 18 to maybe even 25 years old, is still, they almost get a hall pass, right? Like they don't have the maturity level to really own the world.
Well, yeah, definitely depending on their environment.
Yeah,
I mean,
but when you hit 25, though, I mean, you better be ready to flick that switch and go to work.
But well, I mean, both of us lived this. I started on a drilling rig when I was 17 years old.
I started at 18.
It took me, so February 9th, 2006. I will never forget the first day I stepped on a drilling rig to become one of the men. Was instantly humbled. Instantly. Walked on there thinking this, thinking that, and then spent like a year realizing, just shut up.
Just shut up and listen.
Like every time you open your mouth, you are sticking your foot in it. You're proving your ignorance. And then your inability to accept and listen to those older than you is really, really going to affect the way you move forward, certainly in this occupation.
Absolutely will.
So the whole, you got two of these and one of these for a reason kicked in. And that's been a talking point for me for a long time. Been one of my catchphrases is that I rarely say a lot in public. I rarely say a lot in conversation, aside from these live streams, because I'm going to learn a hell of a lot more, especially about how full of shit people are. I think Jack Chan said that in the movie.
Yeah.
If you just listen. You watch people walk right in one door and right back out the same door in the same conversation.
Yeah.
And then you just, instantly they're discredited. You roll your eyes and you think like, all right, this is not something I need to carry with me.
That's right.
However, if you start talking halfway through, you're only going to get the wrong information. You're never going to get them backtracking. Very important to listen.
As an old saying, you should never teach a pig, or never try to teach a pig to sing, because at the end of it, the pig won't sing, and they'll stomp all over the yard thinking that he's still king shit, and you'll just be frustrated, right? So, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I remember back in the day on the rigs, it's cut from the same cloth, right? 18 years old, out there, got schooled really, really quickly, and it was the sweat of the brow and the strength of your back that kind of got you anywhere. But the best muscle that you could use is the one that keeps your mouth shut. And but I remember, it wasn't very many years, but I think by the time I was like 25, I was drilling at the time, maybe starting to push, working with guys who say, okay, get me a Phillips screwdriver. And they would go down to the toolbox and they would just sit there and just stare at it. And just fucking stare at it. And it's like, okay. And you're watching them, right? And you're watching, okay, at what point is this dingling going to turn around and just go, like, I would just wish they would just turn around and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be even better if they just didn't leave the rig floor and they just said, I honestly have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go there and look at a tool crib, and if you don't know, you're not going to, that it says Philip on it. No, it's not going to do that. Go
literally look for someone named Philip and ask him for a
fairy
screwdriver.
godmother's not going to show up and hand you one, right? So
no,
But now we're dealing with kids, like you say, they're so socially crippled that they won't even go to the toolbox.
No.
They'll just sit there and give you a deer in the headlights and just blank stare and then turn around and walk away.
And that's with all of those seeds, it's one important thing for all men, especially young men coming up in what are arguably some of the most confusing times in human history. You're gonna have to get your head on your shoulders. You're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to be strong-willed. You're gonna have to be independent and humble. Have some humility. Ask some questions. There's a tremendous amount of things that there's no way you could have known. So there's no shame in asking.
Well, that was always the montage of the old boys, hey? You need to shut up. That guy's forgotten more than you'll ever know. And that's the reality, right? Is it if you don't shut up and listen, you'll never have the opportunity to learn from some of those guys that have such immense knowledge. I mean, I remember that my old man was trying to teach me lessons in my early 20s, and I read this today, and it was an interesting thing. It said you should never, even if you know the answer to something, if somebody tells you something, you should never say I know. You should say you're right, because instead of just being I know, because I fucking hate those guys.
I hear you.
I know. You don't know shit. Just say you're right, and it'll curry a lot more favor with that person. Right? They'll be more inclined to teach you. And the reality is, you may have loosely grasped the concept of something, but you didn't understand it.
It's funny you brought that up. Lots of people figure that I was an old soul. Like I'm quiet, fairly mechanically inclined, so drilling rigs I didn't mind working. Moved up fairly fast, actually, to the point where I actually had to show my driver's license to a roughneck one time when I was already directional drilling. He's like, "How old are you?" I said,
I thought you moisturized.
I said I'm 23. He said, "No, not the age of your youngest son. How old are you?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "I'm actually 23." And he was like, I could see the depression sink into his eyes. That he was like 48, sitting there covered in invert, and then just like, you mean you're standing there clean and
questioning
with your calculator and your laptop and making a fairly decent wage,
making 3 times as much as him, yeah,
and just crushed. But back to your I know. I was sitting in when I was still in school, in maybe early high school, junior high school. I was sitting in a basement, 2 brothers. One was my age, one was a little bit older than him, and they were already talking about their profession. Actually, they want to be operators, right? Everybody around here wanted to be operators, and they were talking about some specific operating thing, and
make a note about that.
One brought it up, and the other instantly said, "I know." And it was hilarious because it was back and forth with I know. And I just looked and I was like, Jesus Christ, we're sitting next to a couple of fucking Einsteins. Right? Neither one of you know anything because we're still all in school.
How have you not solved cold fusion yet?
And further to that, like you say, maybe consider saying you're right. Like just saying I know so many times basically is a big, huge red flag indicating you do not know.
Such arrogance too, right? Practice a little humility, right? It goes a long way. Anyways, so that leads me to my next point about being capable. All those guys that say I know, they're generally not very capable, right? When it hits the fan and they all get tested, they don't have what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so this is what we're seeing now more so. I mean, this is rapidly accelerating. Of course, we've seen more tribulation here in the last couple of years, I think, than previous generations have seen. Previous 2 generations have seen. I won't go so far as to say the 3rd generation because, of course, they saw the First and Second World War, and we can't even begin to fathom what that must have been.
No.
The Great Depression, but anybody through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they let the good times roll for sure.
Absolutely.
Right. And so we're seeing a vast majority of the population who are not capable. And the point I wanted to make with this is there's a lot of men in today's society that will get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and they'll go out and they'll do their job for however many hours they work. Some it's 8, some it's 10, some it's 12, some it's 14, some it's 16. The number is irrelevant. But they go out and they think that whatever they do during that period of time is sufficient to contribute to society. Well, if you're just there to work for wages, if you're just there to trade your sweat equity for money, well, that's the oldest form of slavery in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And how does that make you better prepared for any ill situation? There's certain like trades. I'll never shit on the trades because those guys, when it hits the fan, they know how to fix stuff, right? You're a mechanic, you're an electrician, you're a plumber. Mm-hmm. You can make things go places that they need to go. But I work in an office now, so largely I could pull my own pants down on this one and say, my job does not contribute one bit to the furtherance of civilization, but it's what you do. It's what you do the rest of the time that matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, capable. This is one of those things. Competent and capable. Those are the two largest ones, I think. When I asked my wife before this, I said, what is it? What are desirable traits that you find in a man? And she said, well, you got to be hardworking. You got to be able to make a decision, and you have to be able to do some cooking and cleaning. Basically, the wife doesn't want to become a slave for you, right? Which I think is fairly fair to say in modern society. That since the 1950s and the large portion of the female population went into joining the workforce, it's fair to say that the man has to be somewhat independent and be able to carry his own load.
Mm-hmm.
And we recently went on vacation, and there's, like I said, 17 of us rented the house, and I watched my father-in-law, who's 60 years old. Like, he couldn't even run the coffee pot. He literally we all had coffee.
He doesn't watch, does he?
Somebody drank the last cup of coffee, and then he was just like, well, how do you make coffee? But it was like, is that a joke? No, like he was dead serious, right? And so there's a whole conversation around like gender norms, like previous gender norms that have existed from, well, let's just say 1950 back to, well, as early as human consciousness has existed. We're in a different time now, and we don't exist in a time where those gender norms have like they don't still exist. And so if you haven't kept up with it, my God, you will. Even a 60-year-old guy who's worked his whole life could easily starve to death in the parking lot, or he won't get his morning coffee. That's for sure, right?
Yes, well, but in his defense, he will go order it, right? I know for a fact that man would definitely know how to run through a restaurant.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No,
There would be no problem in finding out how to gain sustenance.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but, you put the moose killer on the camera through the front bumper or the front door of the Smitty's.
But that's funny too, with you pushing with my self-directional drilling, living a lot of Texas camps and stuff. Even my dad, he pushed for like 35 years, and we always kind of, with my wife, my mom, and they're like, well, you guys could cook if you want to, and we're like, well, exactly. So you don't put so much pressure on yourself. We'll be all right. Like I cooked many years for myself. Now, yeah, I didn't put out the whole spread. I didn't make deviled eggs, and I didn't make salad, and I didn't make. But I did a lot of shopping at the grocery store. I made myself
Thanksgiving
a lot of sandwiches. I made myself a lot of pork tenderloin steaks. I made a lot, but I didn't waste away. Very capable.
That's right. Yeah.
So
it's interesting though how many men today still have latched onto that gender norm that they can go and be the breadwinner of the household and do nothing around the house, even though the reality is that their wife is a working partner and works a full-time job, and they don't really contribute to the cooking and cleaning of the house. But when we were on the rigs, what did they say? Like, you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Mama don't work here.
And we, in Texas camps, it really shone the individuals who would, or spotlighted, on the individuals who would starve to death in parking lot. Those who couldn't wipe their whiskers out of the sink.
Yeah.
Those men will starve to death in parking lot.
For sure they will.
Those who buy high-gar hoagie subs for 14 days will starve to death in the parking lot. Or Hungry Man dinners for 14 days, they will starve to death in the parking lot. Because as soon as that's unaffordable, as soon as that's unattainable, unachievable, the world for those people closes in right now. There is no, even if they know where their food comes from, there's so much more about knowing how to acquire it, how to store it, how to cook it. And if you're if you're looking after another life, another few lives, a family, it's infinitely more important now to understand.
There's a dangerous group of people right now. If you work with a guy that lives on high guard subs or get any kind of gas station sandwiches, and it does come to bear that, you know, there's a shortage, that grocery stores are empty. Those are the people that are going to show up and literally walk off with a cow. They'll shoot a cow in the field, and they'll cut off a roast, and they'll leave the cow there to rot.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually happens today.
It does.
And those,
sadly,
I'm confident those are the people. Those are the kind of people that do it.
Absolutely.
Fucking garbage human beings.
What's the word for that? When you're stereotyping or whatever. Yeah, it's very fair. People, you shouldn't. Well, you can.
100%.
You totally can judge a book by its cover.
Absolutely.
You've seen them all the time in the patch. Maybe we had talked about this earlier. I never liked the term rig pig either, and I always felt under. I felt lowbrow and everything around people that maybe didn't. I knew that I did, and they would have these elevated conversations, which were just as full of bullshit as anything. But all of a sudden, I was a roughneck, so it's just like, well, you just sit at the island and eat the dip, and we'll talk over here until such a time that you're ready to leave, and we don't have to be around.
Because you can't have civilized conversation.
No, but these so maybe that's where it's highlighted that you can, because I can admit I work with a lot of people and I thought, like, you are just trash.
Well,
just trash, and you're always going to be trash.
I work with a lot of rig pigs, but then I think even the worst rig pig is not nearly as bad as a pipeliner. I've seen some really
tough, though.
Greasy pipeliners, for sure.
They're tough.
They are tough.
That was a brief job I had before I went.
I've never known anybody that could ingest that much cocaine and still function.
Well, I didn't have that problem, but I was also only 17.
Yeah, so that's a bit different. But anyways, we missed a whole pile of comments. Chad says it's pretty warm out. Would have went with t-shirts instead of suits tonight.
He missed your intro. We were gonna go Speedos.
Yeah, we thought about the mankinis, but couldn't find any nair. Get everything polished up. But
do you need a little more?
I'll get a top up, but it's not as spicy now. It's growing on me.
It's not, but it's definitely not. It doesn't help keep you cool. It's not a nice cold beer by any means.
It's not a nice cold beer.
It's more of a hot cocoa.
It is like on my underarms are like.
Well, yeah, you can see we're not in
the jackets. The jackets are hung up on the hook, so just because it was too much, right? But Tamboror Station says, "Hi guys, it's time to be men. We need to teach boys the way by example. It's up to us." Absolutely it is. And that kind of, I'm going to talk about courageousness here in the next one, because that's where it comes down to, is having the balls, quite literally, to put your foot down and say when enough is enough, right? And I'll probably get fucking canceled here for saying that, what I'm going to say, but anyways, it is what it is. Chad says children are much too sheltered in homes or school, and a lot have not felt the sting of failure. It's important to let kids fail and learn from it. It'll help later in life. Yeah, we don't let kids fail anymore.
No.
In fact, we don't even get grades in school, in like elementary school anymore.
I was shocked when I saw my daughter's report card.
What do they get, like colors now? Is it like different emojis?
Well, hers was not that, but it was quite ridiculous. It was a lot more than it needed to be, I guess, but it wasn't intelligent. I didn't think it didn't. I guess it didn't. I didn't get anything out of it. Like I don't know where she's deficient. I don't know where she's excelling. It was not.
I know there was nothing for me. Like when I went home with a report card and I had a C on that report card. Oh boy. Like, there was legitimate disappointment from my parents. I was legitimately held accountable. And afterwards, went back to school and I buckled down and I got my shit done.
Yeah.
And never again. Because shame is a useful tool. Shame is not always a bad thing.
No, there's not a instant abuse tied to shame.
No, absolutely not.
Right? It's
kind of the opposite of pride, right? Pride is a sin. So can pride be wielded positively? Absolutely. So could shame, right? Damon says, when I started running downhole tools, the best advice I ever got was eyes and ears open, mouth shut, and then the learning began. Absolutely. Yeah, no. Got your mouth open all the time. You're maybe in the wrong room, right? And Fred says, how many of us did jobs we hated to take care of your responsibilities? Yeah, I'll be honest that, I remember hanging on to the brake handle on the rig when it was 43 below, and well, I guess you can't feel these two fingers and half of this finger as you're slowly getting frostbite. And you're not out there because I'm making sweet cash. I mean, there's a side of the lifestyle that's alluring for sure. But there's a reason you're out there when it's 43 below and you're absolutely hating life and you take a kick and you're covered in something, right? Invert, produce water,
sill, flock, whatever.
Something that's probably almost 100% guaranteed to give you cancer. And it's not so that people can dye their hair purple.
No.
It's not so that you can sit on a console and play video games and collect welfare. Right? That's not why. It's so that those kids can have a better life so that they can then advance further, not so that they can sit there and milk the dad cow dry.
Yeah. So there can be a boat in the driveway for everyone else to use in the long weekend while you're not there.
Yeah, no, and that's a terrible abuse too, right? If you're working 300 days a year to pay for other people's leisure, that's an abuse, right? If you're out there working and that goes to pay for food, accommodations, education, the necessities of life, and something to give somebody a legitimate foothold up in the world. That's fantastic. That's why a guy stands up there when it's 40 below.
Yes, right? And that I think ties into competence. If you're incompetent, you are going to be that 300 days away.
Yeah, 100%.
And that is that I guess probably the biggest sin with the patch.
There is a lot of 40, 50-year-old guys that God love them. That's just their role in life, though, right? Mm-hmm. Is to just be a worker bee.
Yeah.
Not everybody can be top of the game, but still, they need to have their shit sewed up. Chad says he worked a professional job at the mill. We're paid every 2 weeks. There were guys 20 years older than me that had worked there for 15 years that needed an advance on the in-between week. And I worked with guys like this on the rig that would get paid. They would get paid on a Friday, and they were to go off shift on a Monday, and they would have to borrow $50 to catch a bus to Edmonton. So they've just worked 5 weeks before they go off shift. And they've blown their whole paycheck on booze, cocaine, strippers, VLTs, all the vices known to men, cigarettes and high guard subs notwithstanding.
Unbelievable.
And then they got to borrow $50 to get a bus ride home to go spend a week with their girlfriend, who I can't imagine how disappointed that those women must be.
Yeah.
When those absolute failures of men arrive, like just talk about like you should just go to the curb, just leave.
Well, that's a fair point too. I would with the big announcement out of the States there a few weeks ago and stuff, and then social media was flooded with women talking about a certain type of man, that they were going to that they're surrounded that caused these problems. And all I can think about is, for fuck's sakes, do you guys not vet anybody?
They don't vet anybody.
So I guess if we're going to be critical, or if I'm going to be critical on women at all tonight, it's going to be this. This sitting back and saying all the good ones are gay or taken, and there's only this type of dirtbag man left. And I think you should follow the 3 C or the 6 C's here yourself. Get a little more competent. Maybe do a little bit of vetting, because that is not the reality.
It's probably not our place to say what the 6 C's of womanhood is, but
that's not very competent when you jump from one disaster to the next.
It's not, and if you think about it and this at hazard of sounding misogynistic, but we have to have this said and out loud. How is a man valued?
By what he produces?
Yeah. So he can provide and he can protect. That's the two priorities that a man has. How is a woman valued?
By raising kids.
Well, there's two things that a woman is valued by largely in society, although the latter one has changed over the last 50 years. The first one is how proximal she is to her virginity. And the second one is her ability to contribute to the household. It used to be to keep the household, but now there's a lot of women that now leave the household and they have to work, right? And that's fair. You have a $400,000 house, it's got to get paid for somehow, right? But this is a thing, and this is why I say is that hazardous sounding misogynistic. But when this is not a misogynistic thing, this is something that is hardwired into a man's instinct, is to understand the value of a woman based upon how many men she slept with. So if you're thinking about who's going to raise my kids, and somebody's got a body count of 50 or 60, that person to me is a flight risk, right? That person to me has no value on a relationship. That person to me does not have an understanding of good moral values. Now, you could arguably say, well, is that not true for men? 100%.
But yeah, well, and that's just it. That's why I don't understand why there's even a discussion. I don't follow down those same lines where, you know, she's this and he's that.
No.
With under the same. No, they're both
there. It's just largely, I think, in society, men get away with it, but they shouldn't. They should be held to the exact same standard. But regardless, you know, we're looking at a man is hardwired to look for somebody that can continue the line, right? Who's going to be able to help continue the genetic line here? So if you're to find a partner that is not choosy whatsoever, has no consideration for where they sleep around, that is not something that you want to select to raise your kids, because it has no moral compass whatsoever, right? That might sound bad and that might sound unpalatable to some women, but the reality is when you're trying to choose somebody to raise your children, somebody to keep your household, somebody to spend the rest of your life with, you're not looking for somebody that can't make a decision.
That is very true.
Right. Anyways, that'll get me banned off TikTok for sure. What else we got? Damon Sichata here on that one was well testing. It was the old buggers that were the shitheads only because they had drinking habits or whatever got them in trouble in camp. I gotta challenge that a little bit, because I mean I know a lot of I work with a lot of guys that were, when I first started 18 years old, they'd be 40-year-old functioning alcoholics that they knew more than I knew, and that's why they could get away with it though, right? Is they would still work circles around me hungover and still outsmart me 100% of the time, right? They're just cut from a different cloth. The environmental exposure was different, obviously, than what I was used to. So we just can't compare apples to apples there that easily. And if he says not only allow kids to fail, but give them the opportunity to fix their mistakes, not just take the reins. That's another important thing too. Helicopter parenting is dangerous. Is absolutely dangerous, right? To sit over your kids and provide direction to them, but then when they don't do things exactly the way you would want them done, to stop and correct them and stop and correct them and stop. Let them mess it up.
Yeah.
Let them see the consequence. And then, okay, coach them. Don't tell them, coach them. Say, if you did this might work better. Try it out. See how it works for you. And let them screw it up again. By the time they're 17, 18 years old, they'll understand consequence.
Yeah, well, they should, but like you had said earlier, it seems the education system is like it's prolonged adolescence, like well beyond even the school years, and it's further out. Then you got this influx of life coaches, parenting coaches, every coach in the world, and these susceptible minds certainly. And I don't like to even generalize at young parents. There's young parents that do a very, very good job, and there's people that wait till they're into their 40s to have kids that do a terrible job. So age doesn't determine the success of parenting.
No, that's fair.
I think not weeding through the bullshit and being too susceptible, believing everything you see, as since I've been watching a few TikToks, there's been a ton of these parenting coaches that carry on about discipline, and they carry on about arts and crafts times, and I think, like, good Lord, is it really that foreign to mums and dads that they need an answer for everything? So you have helicopter parents being helicoptered by coaches.
Well, there's that, and then there's one that I there's one that's even worse. Is so the parent that was born in the 1980s, right? The parents born in the 1980s was pretty hands off. There wasn't a lot of helicopter parents in the 1980s. But what did the kids do in the 80s? They went out, rode their bikes, climbed trees. They did all this. They did the same in the 70s, but there was a little. I thought that the world was a smaller place. There was just less in it. It was less trouble to get into. But nowadays, there's a lot of trouble to get into. There's fucking pedophiles on every corner.
Yep.
Right? Everybody's trying to hack into your bank account. You know, your kids, there's porn all over everywhere you go. The world's a pretty shitty place right now. And again, it's not smaller or bigger. There's just now more in it and more access to it. So what parents do now is they just shove an iPad in front of their kid.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen this quite recently, is where you'll have a group of kids in a room, a group of children in a room. What should a group of children in a room be doing?
Oh yeah, they should tear that place up.
They should be playing together, bouncing off the drywall, you know, matchbox cars everywhere.
Yeah.
Somebody should be crying within 5 minutes because heads bounce together.
Building forts, not a pillow left in the house.
But it's not. It's silence. It's headphones on. It's fixation on the screen, solely focused on whatever they're focused on, have no consciousness whatsoever to the person beside them, let alone the greater room. And you wonder, okay, 15 years from now, that person gets released into society, what are they going to be able to do?
Yeah, sit there with the headphones on.
And you wonder why you wonder why they, okay, now the folks coming of age now have to go to Tinder to get a date, right? Because they can't make a meaningful connection. You wonder why the divorce rate is increasing rapidly from 50%. 50% already was significant, but it's now up to like 65%. Well, that's why.
Yeah.
There's zero connection because we're literally grooming through our own laziness, right? As parental laziness,
yeah.
Right? We're grooming our children to fail.
Well, and we had talked about that in a few live streams ago with communities dying, right? Curling clubs dying, Elks clubs dying, things like this. Town fairs are getting smaller, so nobody's going out. And the instant answer to that is like, oh, we don't have to anymore. I can get it on Amazon. I can go online with my friends and play Call of Duty, and I can do this and I can do that. And what's shocking to me is the video game thing. I do want to throw this in there because
please do.
I think this is gonna touch on all of them. I did have video games growing up.
You did, eh?
Absolutely, I did. My grandma, for some odd reason, made sure that we always had a Nintendo, which kind of confused me. Now that I think of it, I don't know why. It was nothing I was ever too attached to. However, my brother, 10 years older than myself, he likes it. To this day, he still is playing video games and stuff. You see a lot of people streaming on the internet. They sit there for hours and hours and hours, 4 hours at a time, play video games, all ages, old people, young people. This drawn to video games confuses the shit out of me, like totally. We don't have. The only thing we had in our house in town when Corey and I got together was a Wii, which never got turned on, and that I shouldn't say never. When we had a party, we'd turn it on and we do the Wii Fit where you bounce like that, whatever. Just kind of but it was a communal thing. Everyone laughed, got together. You had your charcuterie board out there and chips and dip, and there was a lot going on. But this headset on, gaming, intense gaming. Holy shit! I think that's that should be regulated just like alcohol and drugs and tobacco. That's amazing how destructive that is.
Yeah. I think if you're a man over the age of 25 and you come home with a gaming console, PS5, I think that's the latest one, or whatever Xbox or Nintendo's out there. I don't know what they're worth now. Probably $1,000.
I have no idea.
Probably more. If you come home with that, you might as well just go get a vasectomy right now.
I just strongly agree.
End the fucking line. Like, you're just shut it down.
Very much so.
Because
hopefully nobody out here is playing Nintendo while they're watching.
I don't even care. Whatever. I never had video games growing up. When I was 16, I bought a gaming console, bought a Sega Mega Drive. I played a little bit. It's like, I can't believe it. What's the hype all about? We have a Wii. We have an Xbox we got for free when we had Telus Internet in town. And it's literally sits and it's got this much dust on it. It's never been used. Never been used. I used it a couple times to actually play a DVD, right? So, like, 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens became self-aware. And I just wonder, at what point in time did we stop becoming self-aware and start being self-interested? Because that's where we're at now. It's just completely self-interest. And that's what video games are to me, is the sole focus, is a selfish thing. It's all about entertainment, all about leisure. It adds zero value to either the individual or to the household.
It's pretty fucking sad. And I can tell you that.
I tell you, that $1,000,
that's pretty sad.
You fucking idiot. That's a mortgage payment. That's 10% of your grocery bill for the entire year. Take that shit back. Go apologize to your wife and kids, and stop being an idiot.
Yeah, well, like, it's
Call of Duty, like,
it's shocking. And I've been that in pulp culture. I've actually been quite proud at my ignorance to it. When people are like, oh, have you heard of this? And I'm like, no, I haven't. Someone asked us that the other day. I can't remember where we were, and they're like, oh, you didn't see this on TV? And I was like, well, we actually canceled all of like our TV. We do have the Netflix, and we have like whatever. I have Global for the news and stuff, but I'll admit, I don't use every minute of the day. And there's a lot of days I seem to get nothing done. For sure. But you know what? It isn't because the fucking TV was on all day. There's another reason for being lazy. I mean, even today, once I looked around and the general contractor took his two boys and they went home, and it was just me and my kid, I was like, yeah, let's hop in that pool.
Well, for sure.
So I got nothing done for the rest of the day. But it wasn't because the Nintendo was on.
No, without a doubt, a person has to take downtime. You have to. Your energy levels, your mental capacity is finite. It has to be replenished. It's like a battery, right? But it doesn't need 4 hours.
No.
Right. It is, well, maybe it does need 4 hours, but it doesn't need 4 hours
of Nintendo. No. And that's it. Yeah, I guess you shouldn't put a time on it. We talked about that on our time management one, right? I mean, hopping on your side-by-side and cutting grass for 2 hours might seem unproductive, but maybe it's not. No. When you we've still yet to do our men's mental health and our mental health lives, so we'll do that eventually. But maybe that is what you need. Maybe that's the most important 2 hours of your week. Yeah. Because X number of hours at work and X numbers of hours being dad and being the husband and being the spouse and being uncle and whatever. That's all very important. But maybe the 2 hours to yourself were the most important.
Well, if the folks at home haven't realized already, this plays a lot into the mental health side of things. Right?
Absolutely does.
To being able to confide in somebody, have a good cigar, have a glass of whiskey, talk to some like-minded individuals.
And I suppose it goes without saying, these are mostly going to become uncensored lives. That's why we set up Smoke and Oak.
I've dropped like 6 F-bombs.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I know we made a big deal about our Idiocracy one being uncensored, but the whole reason that Stan and I decided to do Smoke and Oak was because our independent channels are very much family-friendly, political-free, and this is not. So
my one nephew, actually, I don't know how happened upon my TikTok, which
Okay.
your kid, for the folks at home, your kids should never look at TikTok.
Strongly agree. I set that up for my dad.
Yeah.
And so my cookies, sorry to interrupt you there.
No.
They're now into the stuff I want to see. So they're about other farmers and things like that.
Sure.
But I had already forgot about what it was when I first set it up. So I set this up for my 70-year-old father, who also wanted to see the same things I was seeing, the stuff about Ukraine, the stuff about COVID, you know, just these interesting tidbits from the other side, right?
Yeah.
And it was the most atrocious shit, and I actually felt embarrassed when I was like, Dad, you're going to have to just, you know, every 18-year-old, 22-year-old would just ass the tits out. So you're just going to have to. I don't know how to not get it.
OnlyFans.
So you have to just. You just have to. Don't let it play, because I don't know, maybe that's not how it works. I think that's how it works.
No,
if you let the fucking thing play, somehow it registers that this is what you want to see, and it shows you more and more and more.
Yeah, if you watch more than 7 seconds, it's like algorithm all day long.
Of course, for someone who's 70 and spent 40 years with a wheel and a stick, that was their entertainment. Now this, you know, I mean, even for him, it takes him more than 7 seconds to realize it's switched over, and then by the time you know, and so I could imagine his cookies, right? I was
you
like,
probably don't want to know his search history.
So I just, Dad, just
skim by that.
Yeah, I'll send you farming ones and mine, and
yeah.
But very, very, and well, it's like you had said earlier, it's all available to you now, and even if you don't go looking for you or looking for it, that shit's coming at you. It's coming at the youth. It's coming. It's
inundated with it. And actually, that's when I bought these cigars. When I talked to the I don't know. I say the kid at Cedar Gems. I don't know how old he is. He could be 35, but he's younger than me, anyways. And we're talking about the bands, and I said the bands is a ridiculous thing. Like, this is literally in the store with the mirrored windows, and it's like nobody can see this. You have to be of age of majority to come in here and purchase this one cigar, and it's got this olive drab band on it. But I said, how ridiculous is this? I said, if I step out the door, was the very first thing I see is this giant 16-foot tall and 24-foot wide billboard with a giant marijuana leaf on it.
Yeah.
Is that not hypocrisy?
Yeah, Playboy bunnies on every.
You tell me that's not attracting the kids, right?
It is. Yeah,
I don't know.
totally.
My uncle Ken told me a long time ago, and this is like 22 years. The very first thing he told me when I started working on the rigs is they don't call it dope because it makes you smart. Wow, there's the truth right there. So
we must have missed some after this.
What's that?
We must have missed some after this. I'm sure someone had something to say.
Curtis is on. He said he was late to the party. Have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen more than you speak. And if we learn from our mistakes, millennials should be Einsteins. And I think the reason they're not Einsteins is because they don't learn from the mistakes, because they get, and it's not because they don't make mistakes. It's not because it's because they don't feel the pain, right? As the previous generation is there providing positive reinforcement. It's okay to screw up, but there's no consequence, right? They don't bear the weight of the consequence. So they don't learn from the mistake.
No.
Right. But there is so much coming at them that if they had to bear the full responsibility of some of the actions that people take today, our jails would be full for sure, you know. And then he said, yeah, couldn't agree more. Put down the TV and video games and take the kids and make memories. Yeah, give them something of value, right? No kids ever. When your kid turns 40, they're not going to write, oh, yeah, I remember my dad used to play Call of Duty with me.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't even know what the games are. You just mentioned that.
Well, that's the big one, I think.
Right? So, or Halo, I think, is another one. Fortnite.
Yeah.
Now I'm showing how much you do know.
Well, I don't know about, I've heard Fortnite, but I do know about Halo, and I do know about Call of Duty. Well, I don't know about Call of Duty. I just know they talk about it a lot.
But no kid's going to, sit around the fireplace roasting hot dogs or marshmallows 20 years from now, telling that to their kids about, back in the day, this is how we made memories with the old man.
Yeah.
Well,
we've talked about this too, right? Same with, if you're the smartest man in the room, maybe find a different room. If you're, I read an interesting thing. It was about a Jeep. This guy gave his daughter a Jeep, and she took it to the dealership, and they were going to lowball her on it, and then she took it to a plastic thing. And you reread this?
I have, yeah.
That's another thing. And so even with this, we're talking about this as, be a man, don't starve to death. If you're struggling at all with how things are going and how you're doing things, there's quite a bit on TikTok about right now. Oh, we don't have anybody to talk to. That's never been the case. That's been a stigma attached to this for I don't even understand what reason. There definitely is. You can meet other people with very similar interests, and you can learn quite a bit. Even yourself. Last week or whatever, when I texted you, I was like, "Yeah, we're out picking blueberries." That's not something I would have normally texted somebody.
No.
But I was like, yeah, here, this guy also is very interested in this, right?
And what did I text you back?
Yeah, you're like, yeah, we're going too.
The wife is literally on the way to
right?
the Saskatoon bush.
Yeah, Saskatoon, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
And so these things where you feel like, well, all my friends play video games, so I'll just hop on, put the kids to bed, and hop on and play video games, right? It's not the case. It's maybe all your friends do, and I'm not. I guess I'm not saying throw them all in a garbage bag and toss them to the curb. However,
you shouldn't be obligated to conform, though.
Yeah, I don't feel, even if you're trapped into that now, I don't feel 6 months, 6 years down the road, you're going to feel better about it. What I do believe is when you break free from that and you find a collective group of people that are doing more productive things, getting out there, putting in gardens, going fishing, going camping, going picking Saskatoons, maybe cutting up some meat or preparing some canning, doing some of these other things someone else would making memories.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a collective group around you, or even one or two people around you doing this, then I'd say you're in the wrong room.
It's incredible, though, how much quality you can add to your life by doing things like that.
Amazing.
Right? And even more so if you can do it as part of a community.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're getting together online with your buddies to play video games, there's no real connection there, right? That's what the human brain is wired for, is not interaction. It's for like legitimate connection. Face to face, I see somebody in the eyes, I can read the emotion, I can physically feel it in the room. You don't get that on the internet.
No way.
No. So the next point I have is courageous. So I did allude earlier that I lost a little bit of respect for Jordan Peterson because now, he's just kind of sold himself out and just gone to yell at lesbians with blue hair. But
the band's off.
But yeah, you know what? Mine's pretty loose too. But I was nervous to bring it off because
how bad you.
Well, the last time the wrapper cracked bad, and I having only purchased these a couple days ago, they haven't really acclimated to the humidor. So
yeah,
I think that they smoked quite quickly, and I think it's because they're pretty dry.
A bit dry.
I think so, yeah. But they smoked evenly. It's not perfectly even, but.
Well, I was going to say before, did you notice anything from the first to the second, third? I didn't notice a change. Smoked the same right through.
I have to say it's probably the most consistent cigar through.
And it's a damn good one.
That I've ever smoked.
It's a damn good one.
Although I have had to do a couple relights, but it's been a very good cigar, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, courageousness. So tough conversations are hard enough, right? What we're seeing now is that even simple conversations are being challenged. At every corner, everything you may have to say, every opinion you may have will likely be challenged with, this is misogynistic, and that's why we had to pre-frame this conversation. This is racist, or this is bigoted. And those labels are attached to everything before you've even ever had a chance to say what you want to say.
Yeah.
And why? Well, words mean a lot, right? And that's what I went to school. I'm an English major. That's so I understand vocabulary very, very well. And it's interesting to see the verbiage used by some of the people and I don't want to be political about this, but the left-hand side of the world, that they immediately throw that out there, and they weaponize their words to make anybody with any common sense immediately impotent, because you're too scared to say anything, because you're going to get labeled a racist, bigot, misogynist. And the reality is, all you're trying to do is come at it from a common sense approach. And oftentimes it's not far right. Sometimes it's just somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. Look at it from a logical perspective, and you're somehow made the enemy in the world. And young men need to know this, that regardless of what comes at them, right is still right, regardless of what somebody identifies what's right or what's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Regardless of what the propaganda says, regardless of what the popular media says, we could always say, okay, well, what's legal and what's right, right? Slavery was once legal, but it's never been right.
Yeah.
Sexual assault, not right, right? Suicide was once illegal. Back in the 70s, they could actually still put the death sentence on you if you tried to commit suicide and failed, right? So the things that are legal in the world are not generally a good, they're not necessarily a good reference point when it comes to how to calibrate your moral compass.
No, absolutely not. Well, you would have seen that graph too, and it actually made a lot of sense to me, right? Where they got the dude in the middle, and then the left side and the right side, and all that they've done is shifted this. So you never moved. The people in the middle their morals really never changed.
Never changed.
What changed was the spectrum of left and right moved so far left that now you're accused of being far right, because the whole spectrum has just shifted to the left.
Exactly. Yeah. So now we live in a world of absolute extremes.
Very much so.
Right? I recently read a book called Braving the Wilderness by a lady called Brene Brown, and it speaks specifically to this point, is that when people will try immediately to bark at you very aggressively, and it takes a lot of courage to, and that's the reference is the wilderness, right? You've kind of got to venture into the unknown when you're being challenged with this stuff, because you really don't know what the outcome is. You literally could be canceled. You could ruin your reputation. And honestly, what more do we have in our day-to-day life and our careers and things like that but our reputation in society, but our reputation. And so it takes a lot of courage to get out there and say, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Or I don't necessarily know if that's factual. And even more so, to not only say that you don't believe it's factual, but to express your true viewpoint on stuff. And so we're seeing arguments nowadays, and especially this is relevant to the young men in the crowd, is what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? It's relevant to the young women too, I guess. But so a man can go for surgery, have his parts mutilated and removed, and go on to win an Olympic gold medal. A man can have his parts removed and go on to be awarded Woman of the Year. Like, what messaging are we sending here to young men? Or what messaging we're sending here to any youth, for that matter?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's definitely not a good one. So, unfortunately.
So now when we come to like the school system now has legal obligations that supersede the rights of the parents. So they can now allow your kid to keep secrets from the parents in regards to their sexual orientation. And so much so that they can even reassign their own gender at like well below the age of majority.
Yeah.
We're able to see where kids are encouraged now to go through genetic mutilation. That's what gender reassignment surgery is genetic mutilation. We don't let these people vote.
It's
for
amazing.
5 more years. Why are you letting a 13-year-old go in for gender reassignment surgery?
It is, yeah, it is. At least for me, it's so unbelievably surreal that you almost can't believe that it's happening, or that it's such a mainstream issue.
Well, I think I told you this. It was after the cameras were shut off on the last live stream about the Reimer twins.
Yeah.
So the Reimer twins, back in the 1960s, there was a doctor who was a psychologist who had aspirations to understand whether or not gender was an ideology or gender was genetic. And so there was a couple that had twins and twin boys, and the one boy had circumcision that went horribly wrong and unfortunately lost his penis. So what the doctor, or the psychologist, sorry, had encouraged the parents to do was to reassign this young boy's gender instead of having reconstructive surgery to give him some quality of life. He had to do further surgeries to reassign his gender, and throughout these boys' upbringing, would have them come in, would take photographs of them naked, and actually, at one point in time, had them perform sexual acts upon one another. And then when the boys were 35 and 40, they subsequently both committed suicide, right? In fact, Bruce, the young boy that went through the gender reassignment surgery, he actually tried to come back as a male. Like he just his body completely rejected it, his mind completely rejected it. It was completely unnatural. And so the entire foundation for gender identity as a term all comes back to a confirmed pedophile from the 1960s who had a medical degree, as a psychology degree.
That is absolutely terrible.
And is an absolutely shocking and abhorrent story. And so everything you hear now about, okay, you can't assume my gender, I identify as Z and Za and all these I got the different pronouns, you need to respect my pronouns, is all based upon this absolutely horrific medical experiment by somebody who is clearly medically deranged.
Just the most barbaric thing anybody's heard this month.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
And how many people have the courage to say that? How many people have the courage to go in and say, this shall not be taught in our school system? How many people have the courage to say, my kid is 13 years old, my kid, not an adult, not at the age of majority, not mature enough to make these type of decisions. I am their parent or guardian. I have custody. There's no this my body, my choice.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist at that age, right? And it makes me like, in the pit of my stomach, it makes me angry.
Absolutely.
And we do this to our children, and then they deal downstream in their 20s and 30s and 40s and so on for the remainder of their life with such mental anguish and lack of acceptance, and all for what?
I don't understand it either.
Because nobody had the balls to stand up and say what was right the first time. Apathy is what allowed Hitler to kill all the Jews.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
apathy is what's going to end up with the degradation of society in today's day and age.
That is very, very true. Yeah, and I mean that's very true. This giving up, or I'm looking out for myself. I'm looking out for me. With running through with blinders on, it's what can be done though. I don't know. We seem to, and our Idiocracy live stream definitely chimed in on this. Is we seem to be living in such a world where those with the most insane views have the loudest voice. And I mean, I seen on the news the other day or whatever. I think a 4 or 5 year old was at a Pride Parade in Vancouver shooting off a gender reveal thing. They're going to transition now to be the other sex, and I thought, like, Like, kind of looked over and I was like, gee whiz, my kids are 4 and 5. And I mean, I don't know the situation. I don't ever, but I mean, I can tell you with my own experiences, these severe situations, I would think, are so rare that they should be easily handled. When you start to portray it and suggest that it's a huge amount of the population is affected by this, suffers from this, then you end up with a more complicated. You have a more complicated approach, and I don't believe for a second that it's all.
It's not
common.
It's
But yet we have the most.
Well, it might be common, but it's not majority common.
Well, I guess living in rural Alberta, maybe we're more sheltered than urban people. But then why is that? Is the whole sphere of the urban center that messed up? You look at the West Coast,
it's like
the East Coast.
You keep too many fish in a fishbowl. What happens? Right, it gets messy. How's your whiskey?
This was yet again another excellent pairing. So I don't know if there's anybody here. Our last live stream we did Idiocracy. That was the last one.
That was, yeah.
And a joke of it was we got Highland Park, which some of the reviews were pretty terrible on that.
One of the reviews said that it tasted like pure iodine and it had the honor of being dumped down the gentleman's kitchen sink.
And the cigars we smoked were similar in review. They were not thought of highly in the cigar world. They were a gimmick cigar. Nobody thought they deserved any attention. So we paired that cigar with that drink. You didn't like the cigar, but the drink was excellent. I really enjoyed the cigar.
I like the drink.
I think we nailed it again with another pairing here.
Yeah,
I think this went very well together. This was excellent.
I think the whiskey definitely.
And it doesn't say a year. I mean, it can't be
right off the get go. It was like kapow, right? It was very strong.
But in all fairness, that's like when you drink Scotch, there's a way that you're going to be overpowered off the start, because
you definitely need to roll it around your tongue and prepare your mouth for the rest of the adventure, right?
Because I was going to say, if you go into drinking Scotch at 8:00 at night and your body isn't shocked, what you've done for the rest of the day, you definitely need to get some help.
Yeah,
it is supposed to be something like you haven't experienced for hopefully quite a few days. And there's an art to getting your body, your palate, your mouth, your esophagus ready for drinking Scotch, because it is quite powerful. So in all fairness, most Scotches have that very overpowering, I'm trying to find a year on this thing, but very overpowering start.
But the thing of being a blend is there probably is no year on it, right? Because they would all have different years, perhaps, from the different distilleries. So technically it would just have a bottling date.
I don't find that either, but yeah, no. you very well could be right.
This is on the box there.
It is I think was this the first bottle that isn't decorative? It's just around there's no.
Avalor is not very decorative either.
You have them all in the boxes.
Yeah, well, the boxes are kind of pretty. I kind of like the boxes. It's kind of nice, but.
And actually, yeah, if we were to unbox them, we'd have no shelf.
What did we miss for comments here? Fred's gone. He's got to get up early in the morning. Chad says, pretty easy to hide behind racism, etc. when you don't agree with someone's opinion. It's easier than making counterpoints to someone else's opinion you don't agree with. Yeah, and that's definitely the truth. I mean, if you can't explain something well enough for somebody else to understand it, then you clearly don't understand it well enough yourself. And so if you have to pull out the trump card, the wild card, well, that just, it almost completely invalidates your argument itself, right?
Yeah.
If you have to pull the racism card or the bigot card without any foundation, it's like you really had nothing to say. So
yeah,
stay and play, have a conversation, right?
Absolutely.
If you think I'm wrong, I'm willing to stand here and defend my point. And if I'm educated at the end of it and if I change my tune, well, then I guess you got me.
Yeah.
But you have to have the courage to stand up and have that argument, right?
Yeah, which is another thing,
and not hate each other at the end of it.
That's very true. You have to have an openness, and another thing that we've done, and we've severely handicapped male and female people, like this, this online platform of being rude and crude and negative to other people just because you don't like what they're saying. That needs to be whipped right away. Like, people shouldn't be doing that.
No, you need to shut that down 100%.
Like, I think possibly even the keyboard function on your phone should maybe even be locked until such a time you can prove you can handle that. Because when you go through TikTok and you have all these people and they do this, this person left a comment, this person, you see lots of those.
I've been doing a couple of those lately.
Yeah, well, and it kind of got me, and I'm thinking, like, do people really, and I was talking to my mom about this one time, and I think it was in regard to something I said, and I realized that after, not everything up here is gold. Not everything needs to just be like out there for everyone to see it.
That's right.
Some of this stuff you can, you can run by a confidant and and just see what they think and bounce it off a few trusted advisors. It doesn't need to be out into the world just now for forever to be seen.
And we used to do that. Am I crazy about this or what?
Yeah, exactly. And they'd be like, yeah, no, you're pretty fucked up, man. And then you'd be like, well, really? But this, and then no, you're just wrong. And if you were worth your salt at all, and everyone told you were wrong, you probably could then sit back and be like,
go back to your room and think about it.
All right, maybe. But now we don't have that filter. We don't have that buffer anywhere.
No.
And it's just out there. And then
to hate that person.
And back to surrounding yourself with people, it's unfortunate that this asinine, bizarre comment that you think it's just gold, it's just total fire, and it needs to be said. There's enough shitbags that find it. Yeah. And then they're like, they're also haven't been told, like, just think on that for a minute.
Yeah.
And you get these big friggin' disastrous tumbleweeds are rolling and picking up steam. And then that's where you lose all morality and wrong becomes right.
For sure. It's really easy to polarize things, right? It's the one dangerous thing about human nature is that the brain likes to sort things into A or B. Like, there's just two boxes, right? Stay and play. And if we're going to stay, then it has to be right or wrong. And we do that with people really, really quickly. Right? You're either this or you're that. You're either liberal or you're conservative. You're either male or you're female. You're either gay or you're straight. You're either right or you're wrong. We either love you or we hate you. And very, very rarely do we sit down, spend the time, and say, let's look at the problem. We don't look at the problem. We look at the person that's presenting the problem. We just immediately go to attacking that person instead of just thinking, well, what is the issue and how is their perspective? Like, how did they attain their perspective? Because we all have different environmental experiences. We all have different upbringings. We all see things from a different angle. If we seek to understand, we seek to listen, keep these open and this shut, maybe we'd have a little less division. But
yeah,
all we hear now is just popular rhetoric. Televising politics is a bad thing. Well, televising politics, like CPAC, right? You see the conversations in the legislature now.
Oh, good Lord!
Is like somebody put a CCTV camera in a fucking daycare.
I believe, yeah, exactly.
It's absolutely embarrassing to think that.
Analogy.
So, the city of Grand Prairie right now is having a by-election. One of their councillors passed away. The by-election is going to cost $100,000, $130,000 for just the city of Grand Prairie. So, I think what we have to have an election for the entire country. What would that cost?
Well, it's millions and millions,
like $600 million.
Yeah, I think there's didn't the snap election cost the Conservatives $100 million or something? I heard, or $60 million, or
like
ridiculous.
It's crazy money, right?
Because one of the things I said, for like, nobody's asking the question, why the fuck did it cost that much? We're all asking other questions, but why did no one ask how the hell did it cost that much? In the world of everything online, how the fuck did it cost that much?
But we pay all this money just to pick. Literally just to pick our village idiot. Because they let's be honest, our local politicians, they buy their way in, and then we're, as a taxpayer, we're paying for this electoral process, so we can have somebody go there, stand in the fucking sandbox and not share their toys, not cooperate, not work together, not accomplish anything, and act like complete immature children. And in 4 years when their term is up, what did you do? Well, I stood up a question period and I challenged this person, I challenged that person.
Yeah.
Okay, you challenged them, but what did you do to actually, as a human being, consider working together, not to collude with, but to work together with, to accomplish something meaningful for the constituents that you represent? We don't see that.
Never do we see that.
It's an absolute joke.
Like, never do we see that. And it was funny, you had just said, we spend all this money to effectively complain about our next elected official. Well, doesn't that sound an awful lot like when you had also said we spend all this money to throw the food away?
100%.
Like, as a society, we have, and it's back to apathy, and it's back to, it's a couple of your C's hit on this, and for young men, we got to understand what's happening and be less okay with it. So what can we do about it? I'll admit I don't have the answers. The first thing is to start talking about it and to understand that you aren't alone. That what you see, the majority of what you're seeing online, in the news, in the papers, day to day, the insanity that you're seeing, it's the loudest voice. It's not the majority voice.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Lots of us are quiet. And the first thing we have to do is to, in I guess, with the not to sound like cultish or anything, is to build that army and to realize that a lot of people are fed up with all of this. What's happening?
Yeah,
you're not alone in this.
No, absolutely not.
And when you start to look at similar situations happening all over, then you can really see through the bullshit.
Well, that's my next point is confident, right? And that's exactly what it is how many village idiots get into politics because they just have it's the Dunning-Kruger effect is what they call it, right?
Okay.
So the less confident you are, or sorry, the less competent you are, the more confident you typically are.
Okay.
Right. So you see all these complete morons that know just a little bit about something. Maybe they latch onto a couple keywords, some buzzwords.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a grasp of a subject, but they'll go on for days and their mouth just does this. Bah, 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 bah. And they find themselves in positions of authority and their mouth can't back up the action that's required of them.
Yeah.
But then you see legitimate, capable, competent individuals who can execute, but they lack the confidence, right? Because once you get to know more about something, you start to understand how hard it is, how difficult it is, the things you're going to go up against. And so you start to lack the confidence. And so you're more inclined to be quiet.
Okay.
So the guidance, I guess, for the young individuals is you know something is wrong or you know something is right. You do need to speak up. You need to have the confidence to go and drive your point home. Right. Whether that's even just making a point in public or maybe it's just like applying for a job. We have a lot of people that apply for a job and get it. And again, they find themselves just because they had the balls to just do something, right? Would do something with their life. A lot of successful business owners. I met a VP of a company the other day who could barely articulate a sentence, but he has the confidence to get him to where he's at.
Okay.
Right. Nothing behind him. No substance whatsoever. No character to the man whatsoever. But he got there on confidence alone. Right. So if you can get a little foundational knowledge, have some confidence, you can go a long way. That's a pretty quick point because I don't know where I'm a pretty introverted guy. I'm not really one to talk about confidence a whole bunch. I'm the guy that walks into a room full of people and will just stand there and hopefully somebody I know shows up, right?
Well, I've said that a lot when, I mean, my wife is a lot more outgoing, and we've talked and said, like, when I get there, I want to be in the back of the room. I don't want to be drug up on stage. I just want to be, I want to go, I want to, whatever, but I don't like to.
Yeah. I'm the guy that when people get married, I want to go to the wedding, but I don't want to go to the reception. It's kind of bizarre, but the other point I have is calm, and that one I can talk about. We are talking about, being a man. Don't starve in a grocery store parking lot. It's going to hit the fan. What is the point of the man? Is to bring order to the mix, not chaos. We're not there to make the situation worse. A calm man is the most dangerous thing in a good way, right? You can do so much to prepare for, you can do so much to defend against, you can do so much to further the advantages of your situation, your family, your household, your career, if you can maintain calm. And you can, even if people are talking shit about you or things are going horribly wrong, there's a good saying that when things go wrong, you should be a duck. You should be calm on the surface and paddle like hell underneath, right? I think it was Frank Viscuso that said that. He was a deputy fire chief from down in the States. I think it was him that said that. But you see from time to time the people that immediately when something goes wrong, their blood pressure comes up, their breathing rate increases, they can't concentrate, they can't function. What are they bringing to the table when it goes wrong? Oh, you're that guy?
Was definitely working on it.
You're the guy that throws a wrench across the shop.
Working at it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not good, and I've done quite a few years now of self-reflection onto why that happened and how it was not beneficial ever.
Yeah.
To be basically quick to act, quick to anger, and I've now trying more and more to be quick to act, slow to anger.
Well, you have to be, right? Like, because once you lose control, it's gone.
Yeah, and nothing gets better after that snap.
Oh,
nothing does. Things might carry on. Machines might get fixed. Jobs might get done. Nothing gets better.
Well, you even think about it in just day-to-day life. If we're not even at work, it's 8:00 at night. You're in the house. Kids are in bed, and you're having a conversation with your wife, and you're not seeing eye to eye, and she continually keeps making a specific point, and you can't make a logical, because that's what men want to do. They want to make a logical argument, but you can't make a logical argument. But for some reason, you just feel that, no, this is just right, and you hold the line, but she keeps going bah, 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 and chinking away at your armor, and eventually you bark and you make a snap. What does that do? You lost your temper, you lost control, you lost the argument.
And you've definitely lost the fight.
What you won is a seat on the couch all night long.
Mm-hmm.
So you hurt feelings, you created damage within your household, nothing positive came within your relationship, and now you've got to backtrack, backpedal, exercise more humility than you would have had to do if you would have just done it in the first place.
Yeah.
And not to agree to disagree necessarily, but if you don't agree, you need to stop and say, okay, this situation is coming to a point where it's now almost beyond my control. I need to understand, right? This information is coming at me that I can't process. I need to slow it down. I need to understand it. Because if I just chuck a fucking wrench across the shop or say a bad word to my wife, it's going to be so damaging that it's going to cost me more than it would be if I just stopped right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of amazing that was the last one on your list there. That ties it all together. You can
one more. I have
Oh,
one
isn't?
more.
Okay. Well, you can understand the rest, and you can work on the rest. But the most, it's very important to be able to compose yourself. If you're uncomposed, blowing around like a bag in the wind, bouncing off of everything, chaotic as all hell, I would argue there is nothing that you can do that will be sensible.
No, you're going to add no value to the world.
And you have to, I remember I was thinking, I was like, well, where did I ever get this way? And I mean, my old man's a bit of a hothead too. And I remember thinking, and I had a bipolar driller when I got set up on a big rig, new rig, 5,000 meter triple, one of the new rigs they built. And one of the things, you're in the show now kind of a thing. He was a lifelong rigger, and it's kind of on you. And I thought, like, because I would have been 21 years old. There was not a soul worked on that rig younger. And I thought, like, wow, that's just like tremendous pressure. And the reason it was pressure, and I mean, I'll just say I was good at my job. Yeah. I was a product of the environment when I got set up. Sure. We had 300% turnover rate. I was one of the ones that stayed. I didn't excel beyond anybody else that ever worked in the oil patch. However, I was good. I wanted to be there. I wanted to do a good job. Yeah. And every time something happened, a winch line snarled up, whatever, a joint threads got, I took such amount of offense to that. Like, this is something that I should have had figured out, and fuck would I lose it. Just lose it. Yeah. And I watched this bipolar guy lose it all the time over nothing. And that's when I started my journey into being like, when you snap, forget it. You may as well just go for a walk. Yeah. You are going to add no value to the situation. Yeah. You're going to add no value at home. You're going to add no value at work. You're not even going to add any value if you're by yourself.
Well, no, that's the thing. So if you're the proverbial head of the household, whether you live in a traditional household or not, and you have no restraint whatsoever, you can't expect to escalate and then bring things under control by way of escalation.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it.
It does not ever happen. Right? If you come up to here, the kids are going to come up to here. The wife is going to come up to here. Yeah. They're going to match you all day long.
Yeah.
So if you want them to come down to here and be calm and be understanding, be reasonable, you have to make a choice. It doesn't come naturally, right? The natural thing is I want to just lose it.
Yeah.
You have to make a choice and say, okay, what's happened right now is not in my control. How am I going to bring it into control? Is making a choice and being definitive in my actions. And if I'm definitive in my actions by going to here, well, then I have to be ready to pay the piper. So if I'm going to be definitive in my actions, I'm going to take I'm going to take a lower tone. Chances are I'll have to pay a lot less later, right? That's the calm man is more dangerous in society in a good way. The guy that always loses his shit is never going to create value. He's just going to create chaos and drama and bullshit, and his life is consistently going to be a train wreck.
Yeah,
and should probably never be a life coach. The last one I have is character, and I wrote down after you started talking about operators. This is a good one. If people want to get ahead in life, how do they get ahead in life?
Apply themselves?
They apply themselves. Okay, but is it fair to say that if I apply myself, I can be, I go to work and I pick potatoes every day, and I apply myself, I can pick a lot of potatoes, but I can never really get ahead, right?
Yeah.
So what sets me above the other people that just are really good at picking potatoes? and it's character. So how do we build character? So as a man, it's really important to take the opportunity to build character. Seek out opportunities to build character. You yourself, you went to the States, right? You did some work down there, right? You ventured into your own business. There's a lot of character that comes with that. Myself, I've had a very unique journey, but you think about a lot of individuals, and I wrote down operators just because I know you've got some personal stories with a couple of operators specifically. Those individuals, not the group necessarily, but those individuals, where, and I have my own experience with people that have lived similar lives in different contexts, but they're born, they don't go anywhere, they don't do anything, they seem to hit the jackpot somehow. They get a really gravy job. They make $100,000 a year, but they still don't go anywhere and they still don't do anything. And they think they're hot shit. The reality is they have no substance to them.
No.
Right. And again,
yeah, they are a very hollow shell.
When it comes to it hits the fan and things get really bad, those are the people that are going to show up and shoot a cow and cut off a roast because there's just nothing to them. They're very entitled, they're very expectatious, and it's really, really concerning. And you know a couple of operators. I know a couple of people specifically that, they grew up, they were born, grew up, lived and died without ever having left a 5-mile radius of their birthplace.
Yeah.
Right. But they have a lot of things to say. Right. I went to school with people like this that, you'll never do anything, you'll never go anywhere, you'll never be anything. And that is a reflection of their reality, not a reflection of mine.
Yeah.
Right. And those are not the people you want to attach yourself to.
Not at all.
You never ever want to get in a room with a naysayer, because all they're going to do is cast a net over your ability to grow.
Well, and I hate to do it, but I mean, Dan Penny, right? His catchphrase, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." Some of these Looney Tunes, they got, they got a little, and I think it's because they say so much shit that eventually something works. There's
got to be some gold nuggets coming out of there somewhere, right?
And that's just it. Through all of the overburden and all of the wash and shit, there is a nugget in there, and that's one thing that I saw. That certainly working in the patch, you could easily find yourself in a group of people that were going to be, by and large, a negative influence.
Yeah, they will.
They were going to hold you back. They were going to entice you into things that were going to be of no benefit.
Yeah. And
when you find yourself down these rabbit holes, you will change your thought process. And if you don't get out of it, you'll end up with a truck lifted up to the sky with nuts hanging off of the back and driving around the back roads looking to shoot somebody's cow and hack a roast out of it. That's where you'll find yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say, I from my own experience, I can honestly say I have never made a bad decision from my own self-inspection. Right? If I've ever looked inward and thought about my current situation, that has never led me astray. But if I've been in situations where other people were applying, whether it was peer pressure or environmental exposure, that has historically led me to make bad decisions. Right? It's easy to fall in with the wrong crowd.
Absolutely.
Right? And whether it's improper motivation to try and attain popularity, or to not be ridiculed or whatever, it's pretty easy. If somebody else is calling the shots or another group is calling the shots, you can pretty quickly go down the wrong path. So wherever you find yourself as an individual, whether it's by yourself or as a group of people, you need to think, okay, if I was by myself and my mother was watching this, my grandmother was watching this, would I be proud to tell the story?
Yeah.
You know, would I go home at Thanksgiving and say I did this? And if the answer is no, why would you do it?
Yeah.
You know, why would you shotgun 15 beers and hop in your truck and go burn donuts? And I mean, that's might be amusing, but what value does it create?
Yeah, it's very,
You know,
it is a very much not a value added job.
and so that's what I say. Like 200,000 years ago, we became self-aware at some point in time, and I don't know the date. We became self-interested, and I suspect it's sometime in the last 50 years. We stopped thinking about other people. We stopped thinking about the greater good. Every time somebody's ever mentioned the greater good, it's always never been for the greater good. And all we ever think about is ourselves. I don't say we like you,
Yeah, yeah.
you and me necessarily, but the larger portion of society, we think about what is currently self-interesting to me. So there's a whole conversation, and we've had these conversations, about food shortages. We've had the conversations about the degradation of society. We've had the conversations about supply chains. But what's going to come to bear if we do descend into world war? If we do go back to circa 1945, thereabouts, things get real bad. We're talking about ration cards. We're talking about people living in ghettos. We're talking about segregation of society again. Because by and large, as much as for as woke as we are, we like to segregate people. We're finding different ways to do it, but we're still segregating people. How prepared are we really to do it? We're not woke. We're not woke at all. We're not aware. Because we have no understanding of the philosophy of mankind. We have no understanding of it right now. People like in society, people can't even function. They think, okay, well, I'm going to go to the grocery store, and so this back home. I remember growing up back home, we'd go to the grocery store every day, and you buy your meal for the day. Right? And we had a little fridge. It was this big. Maybe it was bigger than that, but we had a little fridge. You buy your meal for the day, and that was how you didn't create waste.
Yeah,
because you just bought what you're going to eat. But then they brought in big box grocery stores.
Yeah.
And you buy in bulk so that you could save money. And you could save time. You'd only make one grocery shopping trip per week. And then now it's advanced to maybe you could make one trip per month. Well, now I'm spending more on energy to heat this giant fucking freezer. And I'm throwing 30-40% of the stuff away. How is that logical?
Yeah, and we're not using the saved time wisely.
Well, no, and that's the other thing, right?
Which is the double-edged sword.
Think about that in business. If you create a process in business, you only create a process in business that can allow you to do things more efficiently. So if you create a process in your private life to reduce your inputs, and then you use that reduced input time for only leisure, right? Only Netflix.
Yeah.
Only YouTube. I don't want to bash YouTube because we're on YouTube, but regardless.
Well, everything has its place. Absolutely.
If it's only entertainment, if you seek to be, you're asking for a ticket to Pleasure Island, right?
Yeah.
Where you just constantly have this white noise coming in, and you see this now, where they'll literally be watching television, scrolling through their phone, and something else happening here.
Yeah.
Overstimulation of the brain. Your brain can't even process all of this. But then you show up to work, and how can you can't even focus on your work because you need 3 other things going on.
I have to admit, it was last night. The TV was on. I was uploading the videos I had taken from the day, or downloading from my phone to my iPad. So I had an earbud in my iPad. I was gonna edit a YouTube video for my channel, And then somehow I found myself, after the videos were synced to the iPad, I was on TikTok on my phone with TV on. Needless to say, after about 45 minutes, I went to bed. I got nothing off the TV, absolutely nothing out of my phone.
Well,
and after that, I was just like, Jesus.
And that's the reality. We can talk about this. We're not immune to it.
No, we're not immune
We're
at
not
all.
immune to it.
And I thought, like, good Lord, well, there's 45 minutes. I'm not going to get back. Thank God, it was after the wife and kids were in bed and everything, so I guess I didn't sacrifice anything, but
we missed some comments here, holy man.
You got to catch up.
Curtis wanted to know what type of whiskey it was. It's called Isla Journey, or if you were to read it in the liquor store, it looks like Islay Journey, but it's pronounced Isla. Jeremy got it on finally. So grain sure turned this week. Could be combining my month's end, I think. That's fair to say, hey?
I think I might swath peas next week.
Yeah. Jeremy supported there. The canola is maybe a week out from going down. Don't get any water. We turned a lot in the last couple of days as well. Chad has some barley that's awful close. If a guy was to desiccate it, it'd go pretty quick. 100%.
Be careful though. Dad pulled some heads and he let them dry out and they shriveled right up.
They just
so they're not
turned to dust.
You want to do that?
You need a little rain, eh?
Well, I honestly I think rain's too late. I think what's there is there, but that is one thing. Of course, these guys know this, but
sure.
I mean, if you go out, I mean, so I think Dad went out on Saturday of last week, pulled them, and within 4 days, he rubbed them out on the table, and yeah, the kernels got pretty small. So things are filling, heads are turning over, but is it there yet? It's everyone's anxious, right? We're anxious, especially with the good weather, because we know what's going to happen. The pumps are going to turn on. And it's going to rain all September, and it's going to snow on the 18th of September, and we're going to go from what looks like it was going to be an early harvest to leaving the crop out.
Yeah.
And that's everyone. Well, that's my fear. I assume it's everybody's fear.
It's the thing. Like now, for anybody that denies climate change, I don't know how the grain farmers got to see it, because every year it seems to play out.
Well, we've hit 2 early back-to-backs, but I mean, talking to my dad, who will be 70 in September, like he said, no, it was hot before too. I did see an interesting thing though. Actually, it was Todd Lowen, right? So he's
the MLA.
I don't know if you've seen this today. So he showed like a weather map from. It doesn't matter. Anyways, it was a global weather map.
I saw one from 2018.
Did you see that one?
I don't think it was from Todd Lowen, but I did see one from 2018 and one from today, and it was the same temperatures.
Oh, it was lit up red. That was Todd. Well, Todd Lowen posted that today.
Sure.
And I thought, like, well, there you go. That's drive, and of course that was the contradicting to climate change, where 2 years ago 20 degrees was yellow, and today 19 degrees is burning red.
The thing is, there's more to. Every farmer's got to know this. There's more to weather than this temperature.
Yeah, right? For sure.
Wind speed, relative humidity, all that plays into it, right? So it might have been 28 degrees, but if the humidity was 40 degrees, whatever, right?
Well, and that's the thing too. Like those maps, like they missed the legend, right? The legend would have indicated why it was red.
Yeah, but right now, or I don't know what temperature. I think we're at 28 degrees today, thereabouts, and the relative humidity was 22 degrees. So we have crossovers to very significantly dry conditions. So it's still a concerning day.
It is.
I can't speak to what happened 4 years ago. I don't know. It's tough to make context of something that happened 4 years ago.
It is.
Without knowing the whole picture, right?
But my point to that was they made it look a lot scarier,
for sure,
with no context than
sure.
Than it really is.
Yeah, and that's why I generally don't try to turn that TV on ever, because nothing good is going to come.
That's it for that one.
Yeah, we might have to have a dessert cigar.
We might.
Sure. So,
did you get these caught up?
Anyways, yeah, that's where are we at? Jeremy said one neighbor desiccated some barley 2 days ago. Another neighbor says he's going to swath some by Monday or Tuesday. My barley was seeded last, so it's always out. Glenn said, hey, nice to get in on this tonight. So, Glenn's here. Perfect. Wonderful, Glenn. Thanks for joining us. Chad and Jeremy just get on the
farming.
They get on like a private conversation talking about farming.
Perfect. No, do it up.
It's just pure gold.
Always we get the most, eh? Like the most after like an hour or so.
Yeah, we got to start these at like
we're gonna have
9 o'clock at night or something. I don't know if they could stay up till that late, but
yeah, well, we do.
That's when most folks
we do anyways.
Because they come in. Well, we do stay up.
The after party carries on.
The after party's always gold, right? You think it's uncensored during the show, but the truth always comes out after the camera's off. But
yeah, once we get our guests in, we got a few people that were interested in coming. We'll have to do that.
we're gonna have to line something up. Yeah, might have to pull an air mattress in for a couple of guys because they're from out of town. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways, what are we at? 2 hours 19 minutes. I'm at the bottom of the glass almost. You're pretty close.
I think that's the first time we finished the cigars.
Cigars are done. Those are quick smoking cigars.
They were, and I think you're right though. I think it was just a little like if we would left them in there another week.
I think I would buy a couple more, but I'd leave
those
them
were good
to age.
Yeah,
a little bit, get the humidity balance. But they were good. They were nice and they were mild.
Well, it'll be interesting too. We'll have to do those Monte Cristos on another live because we smoked two the day like the first live stream after we got them.
Yeah,
and they were quite dry as well.
They were dry. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they are acclimated.
I think I got some W&Ds way in the bottom. We should maybe do those next time because they've been sitting in there for since March. And we need to do a rotation of the humidor too. I've been following some cigar pages and some guys are saying like if you don't pull them out and rotate everything,
okay,
sometimes you can get some mold and stuff. So crack it open, not let it dry out necessarily, but just get some airflow in there,
new air in there,
move it around, and might have to do that. So,
but yeah, what a cool thing.
But yeah, if anybody has any ideas what we should talk about next time,
throw them on here.
We keep throwing about men's mental health. I know we pulled the card a couple times on some.
Well, yeah, then it always comes up to something else. Something else gets thrown in there.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, and when we started these things last winter, I mean, it was easier to do these. Like, and I mean, I applaud the whatever dozen or so people that have joined us tonight. I mean, I know the weather's beautiful outside, and it's hard to shut her down early, right? I mean, you want to be outside enjoying the weather, but once winter rolls around, I think we'll be able to bat these out a little quicker because nobody wants to go outside when it's minus.
Yeah, nobody's hanging out when it's minus 40.
So
we might have to. We'll definitely put the suit jackets on.
For sure.
It'll be chilly in here. We only keep the shop at like 12 degrees, so
that'll be perfect because the Scotch keeps you at about 90.
Scotch will keep. Yeah, this one for sure. This is a winter blend. It still burns. Like it's good, but it still burns. But where do we make it? We didn't quite make it to. Well, we're about a third between a third and a half.
Normally, where we get to with them.
Yeah. So we got another show to pull out of that one.
I wonder if we'll be able to re-record this and like farm it out to high schools for their career and life management classes.
You think we could do that?
2-hour episode.
I might have to cut out the F-bombs though.
Oh no, they can leave them in there. The society's messed up.
They're mature enough now,
right? I mean, you're looking at the lyrics in today's music.
We can just say
it's totally appalling.
That F-bomb identifies as something else.
It identifies as something else. No, but when you watch popular culture now for
Cardi B,
it's amazing, right? When maybe it's cold outside, the Christmas Carol is totally canceled because it's just. But then we got like WAP on there, and we got the other one that I heard. I think was I'm not sure who sung it, but I heard it, and then I googled the lyrics, and I was just like, whoa,
shameful.
Holy moly. All right, well, I can easily see why Baby It's Cold Outside was too taboo.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at, I guess. But I mean, I was thinking this before I came here, and this is one thing that always bothered me, like, so with his 12 Rules of Life and Antidote to Chaos, his book, after I read that book, because he had the 12 rules were dumb. Like they were dumb. I thought they were fucking so stupid. And one thing that always
the things you should already know.
Well, just even the title of them was dumb. But one thing I thought he should have had in there, because when he had a Ranger closet or whatever, yeah. So, and I thought this today when I was grabbing my shirt and my coat out. None of the people that are watching this, I'm assuming, need to hear this, but quite a few people watch these afterwards. If there's a young man that watches this, when you get dressed in the morning, if your clothes are hung up, which probably they're not, they're probably a folded up sweatshirt and sweatpants in your drawer, that will be step one, is to get a closet and get a hanger. But if you reef your fucking clothes out of the closet and then the hanger is sitting cockeyed amongst your other clothes, start there.
Yeah.
Start right there. Give your clothes the respect they deserve. Take the hanger off of the rack, take off your shirt, set the hanger aside in the laundry room or wherever you put it, and then hang your shirt back on it. Drove me absolutely nuts. When I got together with my wife, I would look into her closet and there'd be fucking hangers just ripped all over
Just
the
chaos.
place.
Chaos.
And
right?
I thought to myself, like,
That's the difference between male and female.
because
Chaos.
it made it. When I read his book, I thought, like, oh man, as far as I'm concerned, that's a rule. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You rip your clothes off of there like you're in a mad rush. I mean, you give it the extra eighth of a second to take the hanger down, put it, and then you will get a sense of like, all right, this is feeling better. I'm getting ready for the day.
Yeah.
When you start your day off in shambles,
We'll say no young man should ever start his day in sweatpants either. I gotta put that one out there.
we've been down that road.
I own one pair of sweatpants. Well, they're technically track pants, but I only wear those if I'm deathly ill, will not leave the house, will not leave the master bedroom because I'm sick. Because sweatpants to me say I've given up.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I
call
hear you. I
call
hear
the
you.
fucking priest and give me the last rites because I'm done.
And
Right.
if you wear them out of the house, you've shown that you're not ready for
But
the
there's
day.
like a whole sex culture around gray sweatpants now.
Is there? I seen something on TikTok about somebody wearing gray
there
shorts,
is,
and
yeah,
I didn't understand it.
There's a whole thing around
Okay.
wearing gray sweatpants now. Apparently it's a sexy thing.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's not.
So yeah, we've
If
descended.
you're finding an individual that has chosen the lowest form of, and I wouldn't even call it fashion, the lowest form of clothing themselves to be attractive, you're doomed.
That's amazing.
You're absolutely doomed.
That is amazing.
Anyways, should we let the folks go to bed?
Yeah, we can put a bow on her.
10:30.
10:30.
10:27. All right, wonderful. Let us know comments in the section below.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you want us to talk about next time?
Yeah, we definitely appreciate that.
Put a poll out.
I'm gonna do a different poll. I'm not gonna put those same ones on there. I'll put those same ones on.
We're
there.
gonna tear that Band-Aid off and start again.
Start with 3 or 4 new topics.
Start again. So
mental health is on there. I think we'll save that one for the winter, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot in that.
There's a lot there. Yeah, that might we integrated lots into each one.
We do,
but it deserves its own conversation.
Well, even tonight before we started talking, neither one of us really did notes. We talked about it for kind of a week here. We're like, well, what do we thought this can be a hard one to do, and here we are 2.5 hours later.
Yeah.
Which is, you start tying into mental health, men's mental health.
That's literally the notes we had. It's just one little slip of paper with 6 words written on it.
And when we did our shopping habits one, I think each of us had about 6 pages,
6 or 7 pages,
and we still wrapped that up in 2 hours. So that might need a part 2 on that one.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, we definitely do appreciate the letting us know what you think.
Yeah, appreciate the support. If you commented, obviously you're entered to win a cup, a glass, a hoodie,
yeah,
whatever you choose.
Hoodies aren't much good at plus 36, but when we get down to
winter's coming,
30,
winter's
I was
coming
wearing
fast.
mine. I wore mine the other day when I was like, they're super comfy.
I've been scared to wear that one because I want to show the folks, right?
Yeah, we can. And that did come out pretty good. I don't know if anyone can see that, but it came out pretty well.
Nice color.
It is a nice color.
It's real sharp.
Feels better. Yeah.
And soft.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. They're
it's manly to be soft.
It is, absolutely.
One that's shit chafing your skin.
No.
Nothing worse than chafed man nipples.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we better let folks go home.
Absolutely. Well, everybody enjoy your night. Enjoy your weekend.
Been good to see everybody. See you tomorrow. Tonight. Next week. 2 weeks.
Whenever. If it rains.
I love it.